Before watching, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like to support me and watch the next video.
The blood gushing from Wen Shu's neck wound stained his chest. When he felt he could no longer breathe, he felt as though his soul was being grabbed by an invisible hand from his Danshan sea of qi. It seemed like it was pulled up from his heart before it was briefly lodged in his throat. And finally, escaped his body. He fell backward. The sun shone on Yu Shangrung's face, illuminating his calm and stoic expression. Perhaps he was used to seeing such a scene. He only felt apathy. Yu Shangrong raised his palm. From the faraway tree trunk, the scabbard flew back to him, and he sheathed his sword. He suddenly wondered if his claim had been too audacious earlier. After all, there was still his invincible master. At this moment, Lu Zhou was meditating on the heavenly writing scrolls since he had used up all of his extraordinary power. The addition of 1.500 merit points left him puzzled. Among his 9 disciples, it was most likely that Yu Shangrong was the one who killed a grand cultivator. Yu Zhenghai had not yet returned, and Yi Tianxin was still banished. Wait, it could have been Ming Shi Yin as well. During the battle at the Obedient Villa, Ming Shi Yin had killed a 5-leaf cultivator when he was just a 3-leaf cultivator. However, Ming Shi Yin did not leave the evil sky pavilion. Who else could it be if not Yu Shangrong? A 3-leaf Yu Shangrong with the experience and technique of an 8-leaf cultivator would find it easy to kill a 5-leaf cultivator. Lu Zhou did not dwell on it too much and closed his eyes to continue meditating on the heavenly writing scrolls. After the battle, Jing Province City was no longer the flourishing city it was once. The streets were occupied by the Nether sect members. Only some houses were damaged. In general, the battle did not cause much damage to the city. With an 8-leaf cultivation base, it was normal for cultivators to fight for days on end. If there had been no formation, it would not have been surprising for 2 8-leaf cultivators to demolish Jing Province City. It was clear that they had restrained themselves when they fought. Moreover, Jing Province City had activated its formation as well, shielding it from damage. At this moment, the Nether sect disciples were everywhere, from the city walls to the city gates. Flies buzzed about busily above the corpses strewn on the ground. The formation area was also occupied by the Nether sect's cultivators. The smell of blood wafted through the streets to the top of the city walls. Inside the general's mansion, Yu Zhenghai, Si Wuya, and Huang Shiji were discussing their next move. Wise brother, Liang Province, Yi Province, and Jing Province are now under the Nether sect's control. Should we advance north? Yu Zhenghai asked. Si Wuya was about to reply when Hua Chongyang walked into the room. He quickly said, Sect Master, we've found Wen Shu's head at the northern city gate. Yu Zhenghai, Si Wuya, and Huang Shiji instinctively rose to their feet from the shock. Huang Shiji, an 8-leaf expert, frowned slightly and asked, who did it? Hua Chongyang shook his head and replied, we're not sure. With his hands on his back, Yu Zhenghai said, surely, it's the work of an elite since he's capable of killing Wen Shu. Is there anything else? There's only Wen Shu's head. However, based on the cut, it seemed to have been made from a sword. Hua Chongyang replied, a sword path elite. A smile bloomed on Yu Zhenghai's face as he said, well, it's no surprise. After all, as the saying goes, a just cause attracts much support. An unjust one finds little. If I can meet this elite, I'll have to personally thank him. At the end of his sentence, his expression turned regretful as though he felt it was a pity he could not meet this mysterious elite who killed Wen Shu. In his opinion, there was no doubt the other party meant to help the Nether sect by displaying Wen Shu's head near the city gate. Huang Shiji cupped his fists and said, you have the support of the people. Sect Master Yu, the world will one day belong to the Nether sect. Hua Chongyang added, I've sent some men out north to investigate. Based on their observation, there had been a battle, and Wen Shu seems to have unleashed quite a bit of power. However, his opponent's sword skills were amazing. No energy swords were wasted. He relied mostly on his sword and didn't leave many marks behind. Si Wuya said, puzzled, apart from second senior brother, who else is capable of this? Yu Zhenghai shook his head and said, wise brother, Wen Shu has been heavily wounded by me. If it was second junior brother, Wen Shu wouldn't have had the chance to react all. It can't be him. Moreover, knowing him, he would wish for Wen Shu to survive. When the others heard this, they nodded in agreement. Si Wuya wondered if he should mention the matter about Yu Shangrong severing his golden lotus. But in the end, he swallowed his words. At this juncture, it was very possible that his eldest senior brother did not want to hear about anything to do with severing one's golden lotus. The greater picture was more important. His eldest senior brother had nothing on his mind now apart from conquering the world. In the eastern pavilion of the Evil Sky Pavilion, after meditating on the heavenly writing scrolls for 5 days, Lu Zhou felt that his extraordinary power was nearly completely replenished. However, it was far from enough to merely meditate on the heavenly writing scrolls. Now that the barrier had been restored, and the world was intimidated by the presence of a 9-leaf elite in the Evil Sky Pavilion, this was the best chance for him to focus on cultivating. If he could progress from the 1-leaf stage to the 2-leaf stage, there was a chance for him to progress from the 2-leaf stage to the 3-leaf stage. Lu Zhou opened the system dashboard and took a look. Remaining life, 16.744 days. He had 48 reversal cards. That amounted to about 45 years of life. His bodily functions were not at their best yet. After thinking about it, Lu Zhou used 10 reversal cards. His lifespan increased by 4.000 days. Lu Zhou did not use the remaining reversal cards. His instincts told him the value of these cards might appreciate after the Earth Scroll was activated. Master, Little Yuaner's voice reached him from the outside. At this moment, come in. Little Yuaner pushed the doors open and brought Conch into the room. Conch appeared slightly shy. Perhaps, she was still shocked from consuming the leaf sprouting pull. Let me see your hand, Lu Zhou said. Oh. Conch extended her hand in front of Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou placed 2 fingers on Conch's wrist. Lu Zhou sensed that aside from her Danshan's sea of qi directly activated, there were now some primal qi flowing through her meridian vessels. Things seemed to have gotten stranger. If she had not cultivated in the past, how could she have entered the cultivating state? She had never gone through the conventional body tempering process. The flow of primal qi was no laughing matter. If it condensed into energy, she would certainly be hurt. Lu Zhou lifted his fingers and stared at Conch intently as he asked. Conch, answer me honestly, do you really know nothing about cultivation? Cultivation. Conch blinked her huge eyes. Lu Zhou flipped his palm. A miniature avatar appeared above it. 2 leaves spun under the avatar. Little Yuaner did not find this strange at all. It was no longer news to them that their master was skilled in controlling avatars of different realms. This, Lu Zhou said, is what cultivation means. I've seen this before, Conch said curiously. Is that so? 8 leaves, 9 leaves, and 10 leaves. Conch extended her fingers as she happily counted the leaves she had seen as she looked at the leaves under Lu Zhou's avatar. When he heard this, Lu Zhou felt slightly shocked. Where did you see it? Conch shook her head and muttered. I can't remember, maybe I was dreaming. Lu Zhou felt speechless. Did she just claim that she had seen something in her dream? When he saw that Conch was back to normal and there were no other issues aside from the tempering of her extraordinary 8 meridians, he said, Yuaner, yes, master. Tell everyone to focus on their cultivation for the next 6 months. They're free to choose to sever the golden lotuses or not. Everyone should help each other out. But we must be quick about this. Also, nobody is to teach Conch about cultivation in any way. Little Yuaner understood the first part of the instructions. The second part left her confused. Just as Little Yuaner was about to open her mouth to ask, Lu Zhou interjected, if there's nothing else, you may leave. Yes, master. Little Yuaner led Conch away from the Eastern Pavilion. The Eastern Pavilion was quiet once more. Lu Zhou was lost in his thoughts at this moment. If there were other 9-leaf cultivators, or even a 10-leaf cultivator, in this world, where would they be at this moment? The 10-leaf stage only existed in the old books, and there was the 1,000 Realms whirling avatar as well. Lu Zhou checked the system dashboard. The price of 1,000 Realms whirling avatar was 500.000 merit points. If he wanted to purchase 1,000 Realms whirling avatar, he would have to wait until he had reached the 9-leaf stage first. There was a long road ahead of him before he reached that stage. I should save my merit points. I can't spend them now. Lu Zhou closed his eyes and continued to cultivate with his legs crossed. Early next morning, outside the Eastern Pavilion, Zhu Honggong, old 8th, loitered around like he was an unemployed person. Morning, 5th senior sister, 5th senior sister. You look more beautiful than yesterday, Zhu Honggong said with an ingratiating smile on his face. Xiao Yue frowned. What is it, old 8th? Zhu Honggong looked around before he said in a hushed tone. 5th senior sister, have you severed your golden lotus? I haven't. Why? Xiao Yue asked. Just asking. Nutjob. Xiao Yue gave him a complicated look as she walked away. Zhu Honggong continued to loiter around. When he saw little Yuaner and Conch strolling about, he called out to them. Little junior sister, 8th senior brother, little junior sister, you look more beautiful than yesterday, Zhu Honggong said. Little Yuaner giggled. Really? Zhu Honggong walked up to her and asked in a hushed voice. Little junior sister, have you severed your lotus? I haven't. Why? Just asking, said Zhu Honggong casually. Little Yuaner rolled her eyes at him and said, you have too much time on your hands. Then, she led Conch to the back of the mountain in a run. I knew it. Nobody has severed the golden lotuses yet. They think that they can fool me into severing mine first. Fat chance of that happening. I won't sever mine until everyone has severed theirs. Wait, if I sever it first, I can cultivate earlier than everyone. I can't put it off forever. Zhu Honggong looked at little Yuaner's retreating back as he stroked his chin. Finally, he made up his mind. I should look for 3rd senior brother and speak to him. Just when he was about to go to the training grounds at the halfway point of the mountain, a voice rang from behind him. 8th junior brother, come here. 4th senior brother. Zhu Honggong saw Ming Shi Yin waving at him nearby. His eyes brightened up as he walked over. He stood before Ming Shi Yin, bowed, and asked, 4th senior brother, have you severed your lotus? Why? Ming Shi Yin was not like the others. When he was asked this question, he immediately went on alert. Just asking. Forget that. I'll help you today. You've just formed your 100 Tribulations Insight avatar and have no leaves yet. The earlier you sever it, the better it is. Stop hesitating. Let's go. It's definitely more difficult for you to sever your lotus. It'll be easier with mutual help. I'll help you, and you'll help me. That's how the 4 elders did it. Hey, I'm talking to you. Do you think that it makes sense? Ming Shi Yin asked. Yes. Zhu Honggong nodded. Indeed, he could not bring himself to sever his lotus. Then, Ming Shi Yin grabbed Zhu Honggong's collar and dragged him toward the southern pavilion. When they were in the room, he said, show me your avatar. Quote. Don't worry, my separation hook is quick and precise. It'll be over before you know it. Ming Shi Yin flipped his palm. His separation hook hovered above it. A person without a heaven-grade weapon will have a hard time severing their lotuses. Lesser weapons like earth-grade and mystic-grade weapons, you'll have to hack at it a few times. Some of them had it worse. They couldn't sever it even after hacking away at it for half a day. Hey, why are you sweating so much? Show me your avatar, quick, don't dawdle. Swoosh. Zhu Honggong turned around and ran. He crashed through the door and ran out of the pavilion. Running away, Ming Shi Yin moved swiftly and activated his avatar. Whiz. Ming Shi Yin and his avatar appeared in front of Zhu Honggong. He grabbed him. I'm trying to help you. How dare you run away? What are you afraid of? Are you a man? You shouldn't be this cowardly. Look at 2nd senior brother. He's a true hero. He's so valiant. You should know that when 2nd senior brother severed his golden lotus, there was no such thing as a survival pill. 2nd senior brother is the true pioneer. Old 8, have more faith in yourself. Show me your courage. Zhu Honggong chuckled bitterly. He said through tears streaming down his face. I was just warming up. Then, with utmost reluctance, he summoned his avatar. As soon as his avatar appeared, he hastily said, Senior brother. Wait up. Ming Shi Yin's separation hook burst forth with golden radiance as he swung it at Zhu Honggong's golden lotus. A wail not dissimilar to a pig's squeal resounded through the entire southern pavilion. The instant the golden lotus fell to the ground, the The upper part of the avatar melted back into Zhu Honggung's body. At this moment, Ming Shi Yin scratched his head and asked, "Old Eighth, did you eat the lotus-severing survival pill?" Zhu Honggong, quote. His eyes rolled back into their sockets, and he fainted. Ming Shi Yin was speechless. He quickly took out a survival pill and put it into Zhu Honggung's mouth. Then, he took out a leaf-sprouting pill and did the same. After all that, he carried Zhu Honggong back to the room and tossed him onto the bed. Ming Shi Yin muttered to himself, "You should thank me. The results of the Big Dipper Academy's latest research are now in you. Although this leaf-sprouting pill isn't as potent as the one Conch ate, it's of good quality as well. If you eat it with the survival pill, you'll be able to easily sprout one leaf." Ming Shi Yin waited for a while longer inside the room. When he saw that Zhu Honggung's condition was stabilizing, he turned around and left. He had barely left the room when he saw Pan Zheng and Zhou Jifeng passing, clearly trying to reduce their sense of presence. "Hey, want to sever your lotuses? I'll help you for free." Ming Shi Yin hollered at them. "Ah, no, it's okay, we don't need that. Good day, Mr. Fourth." Pan Zheng and Zhou Jifeng turned around and ran. Poor Mr. Eighth. So, that's how painful it is to sever one's lotus. It seems even more painful than dying. Both of them were relieved they had chosen the other alternative to cultivate. When he saw that the duo running away, Ming Shi Yin shrugged helplessly. "Old Fourth, third senior brother." Ming Shi Yin turned around and saw Duan Musheng walking toward him with the Overlord's spear in his hand. A determined expression could be seen on his face. "Old Fourth, I've thought about it for a whole night, and I finally have an epiphany." Duan Musheng said. "What epiphany, third senior brother?" Ming Shi Yin asked with an ingratiating smile. "Fellow disciples should help each other out. You help me sever my lotus, and I'll help you sever yours. What do you say?" Duan Musheng was not someone who was afraid of pain. However, it was naturally better if someone helped him to sever his lotus. Now that most sects in the cultivation world are actively severing their lotuses and recultivating, we can't fall behind, otherwise, the evil Sky Pavilion would be left in the dust. "Ah, third senior brother, I can help you sever your lotus. However, how do you plan to sever my lotus?" Ming Shi Yin asked, feeling apprehensive. "With my Overlord's spear. Of course." Duan Musheng continued to say, "I've reached great heights in my spear techniques a long time ago. I can unleash 100 energy spears in a very short amount of time. That'll be enough to sever your golden lotus." Ming Shi Yin, quote. Fourth senior brother, why are you sweating so much? Don't worry, I won't hold back. I've been simulating various spear techniques in my mind lately. The best way." Before Duan Musheng could finish, he felt a breeze against his face. Old Fourth, I command you as your senior brother to get back here." Ming Shi Yin ran down the mountain at lightning speed. Who could FC King endure that? He decided not to sever his lotus. Being an 8-leaf expert for life did not seem too bad. Why must he attempt to reach the 9-leaf stage? That did not make sense. Right, why are there so many cultivators with impaired minds in the cultivation world? Many of them can't even reach the 8-leaf stage until the day they die. Why would they even sever their lotuses? Isn't it enough to strive to become an 8-leaf cultivator? Ming Shi Yin flew toward the foot of the mountain at lightning speed. He landed on a branch and made himself comfortable before he fell soundly asleep. He was enjoying the soft caress of the wind when a deafening sound resonated in the air. The sound was so unique, and it traveled far and wide. Sitting on the branch, Ming Shi Yin looked around. He saw a winged beast in the air speeding toward the mountain with a flying chariot in tow. What a huge beast! The bird had wings that spanned 50 feet each. Its feathers were dark crimson, and its eyes were as large as fists that shone with an eerie light. Ming Shi Yin did not recognize this beast, but he was sure that it did not exist around human settlements. He was, naturally, shocked. Did it come from the Four Forests? Ming Shi Yin leaped into the air and went to meet the flying beast with the flying chariot. As he expected, the winged beast was headed toward Golden Court Mountain. Perhaps it was out of courtesy. The chariot did not fly high but maintained a low altitude. It reached the foot of the mountain in no time at all and slowed to a stop. Ming Shi Yin looked at the 5 people on the flying chariot. They wore scarlet clothes of foreign lands with embroidered hats and parted moustaches. The leader had a stocky build and eyes as sharp as a falcon. The leader looked up at Ming Shi Yin, who was hovering in midair. He placed his right hand on his left shoulder and said with a slight bow, "My friend, I'm an envoy from Ruli. My name is Lani, and I wish to meet the master of the evil sky pavilion." Chirp! The huge flying beast raised its head, opened its thick and sharp beak, and cried out deafeningly. It resembled a giant falcon. It did not look very likable at all. It was common to see a flying chariot being pulled by a flying beast. However, it was only suitable to be used in sparsely populated cities. Flying beasts such as this one were difficult to tame. They could easily go berserk. Once they lose control, they would cause harm to humans. Moreover, this did not seem like an ordinary beast. Ming Shi Yin looked at the 5 individuals on the flying chariot before looking at the man who greeted him. "Envoy from Ruli, it's an honor to meet you, sir." The moustache of Lani, the Ruli envoy, twitched when he spoke. He seemed like he was smiling, but at the same time, not. "My friend, since you're near Golden Court Mountain, you must be a friend of the Evil Sky Pavilion. If you can introduce us, I will be forever grateful to you." Ming Shi Yin said nonchalantly, "You speak our language well. There's an academy to learn the language of Great Yan in Ruli. That's where I learned it," Lani replied. Ming Shi Yin was perplexed. Ruli was engaged in a battle with the Liang province. Their 2 nations were practically at war. Why did Ruli send its men to the Evil Sky Pavilion instead of to his eldest senior brother or the imperial family? As the saying went, beware of suspicious folk bearing gifts. They are sure to harbor ill intentions. Ming Shi Yin scratched his head. He looked away and said, "Ah, what? What did you say? I don't understand you." After that, he flew in another direction. "This is important. Please thoroughly think this through," Lani said immediately. Ming Shi Yin hovered in the air after flying several meters away. He looked back and said, "How important is this? Are the skies falling?" Lani was speechless. However, he said, "Not exactly." "Then, there's nothing to worry about." Then, Ming Shi Yin turned around, unleashed a grand technique, and vanished from their sight. Lani was left staring at the Golden Court Mountains barrier with a stunned expression. He did not seem angered. Contrarily, a smile could be seen on his face as he said, "I've spoken with many great Yan people, but I've never met someone as unconventional as him. What an interesting fellow." "Chief, shall we force our way through?" one of Lani's subordinates asked. "Are you out of your mind? This is the Evil Sky Pavilion. We're not here for a fight. Moreover, this barrier isn't ordinary. We won't be able to easily breach it. What should we do then?" "Wait. ... In the afternoon, Ming Shi Yin returned again. He hovered in the air and saw Lani and the others still waiting at the foot of the mountain. When Lani saw Ming Shi Yin, he stood up at once. "We meet again, my friend. You guys sure are determined. We won't leave until we meet the master of the Evil Sky Pavilion." Lani was worried that Ming Shi Yin might disappear again, so he hastily added, "This has something to do with the secret of the 9-leaf stage. Please help us obtain a passage, my friend." Chirp! The winged beast cried out deafeningly again. The 9-leaf stage. Ming Shi Yin went on alert immediately. He did not agree to help them immediately. Instead, he said, "Wait here." He turned around and passed through the barrier. When Lani saw the blue barrier, he smiled confidently. At his side, his subordinate said, "Chief, he won't meet us as well." "He will. Any expert in this world would be curious about the 9-leaf stage. The Evil Sky Pavilion's master is no exception to this," Lani said confidently. "I heard that he's already at the 9-leaf stage. Why would he be interested?" the subordinate asked. Lani placed his hands on his back and said, "Firstly, if he's truly at the 9-leaf stage, that makes him the first 9-leaf expert in the cultivation world. A person like that will be most interested in maintaining his status. What do you think he'd do if 9-leaf cultivators pop up one after another?" When the subordinate heard this, his eyes gleamed and immediately slid a thumb over his throat. Secondly, if he's not a 9-leaf cultivator, it means the rumors are fabricated by Great Yan and the Evil Sky Pavilion. That will be the opportunity for us to take Liang province with Lu Lan. The subordinate looked fearfully respectful. He bowed and said, "That's brilliant, Lord Lani." However, another person said, "What if he's really at the 9-leaf stage?" Lani scoffed and said, "The avatars of humans are based on their own figures. If severing the golden lotus allows them to reach the 9-leaf stage, then Ruli, with our belief in the Wolf King, will certainly have an advantage. When that moment comes," he paused dramatically, "it will be the beginning of the end of Great Yan." At this moment, a figure floated down from above. Ming Shi Yin hovered in the air and said, "My master invites you up the mountain." Lani turned back to glance at the box on his flying chariot and said, "Bring it up." Understood. The four of them admired and respected Lani even more now. Ruli and Lu Lan were currently allies. They fought against the armies of Great Yan multiple times at the borders. Then, they joined in the battle at Liang Province. After the Nether sect conquered Liang Province, Ruli had been looking for an opportunity to snatch Liang Province away while the situation had not been stabilized. With the appearance of a 9-leaf cultivator and the popularity of the lotus severing theory, Ruli had to put its plans on hold. "Tiangu, stay here." Lani snapped his fingers. A ray of light shot out between his fingers into the winged beast's forehead. Tiangu lied down obediently. Ming Shi Yin shook his head. It was clearly a bird. Why did they have to name it Tiangu? A heavenly dog. The five of them walked toward the evil sky pavilion, guided by Ming Shi Yin. A moment later, inside the evil sky pavilion's great hall, Lu Zhou sat on his seat in a stately manner. The Ruli envoy, Lani, walked into the hall with his fellow comrades. "Greetings, Pavilion Master. I am Lani, a Rulian envoy." The remaining four bowed. Lu Zhou glanced at Lani. Name, Lani Bona. Race, Rulian. Realm, Nascent Divinity Tribulation Realm. Lu Zhu bluntly said, "Let's hear it. What brings you here?" Lani bowed again and said with a smile, "Esteemed Lord Pavilion Master, I heard that you're the first 9-leaf golden lotus elite in the cultivation world. That's why we made the effort to visit you. If it's possible, Ruli wishes to be at peace with the evil sky pavilion." Ming Shi Yin said in confusion. "What's he talking about?" Duan Musheng frowned and said, "Don't interrupt, let him speak." Ming Shi Yin, quote. Lani looked at Lu Zhou and said, "We have two objectives for visiting the evil sky pavilion. To establish a positive relationship with the evil sky pavilion and to discuss the 9-leaf stage with you." Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, "Is there someone in Ruli who's at the 9-leaf stage now?" "Not yet. How are you going to discuss anything if you don't have 9-leaf cultivators?" This question rendered Lani speechless. Indeed, what ideas could they exchange or what discussion could they have if none of them had any idea about the 9-leaf stage? I'm sure these other tribesmen came here under these pretexts to verify the truth. Lani bowed and said, "Please hear me out, Pavilion Master. Let's hear it. I'm from the Bona family in Ruli. About 1.900 years ago, my family received a certain object." Lani waved his arm. The four individuals behind him brought a long box forward. Lani pointed at the box and said, "This is a coffin." Ming Shi Yin and Duan Musheng frowned. Duan Musheng suddenly shot out at lightning speed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Spear shadows rained down ferociously. Lani did not expect the people of the evil sky pavilion to attack without warning. He hastily retreated and dodged the attack. Bam, bam, bam. The spear shadows rained down on Lani like a storm. The other four looked frightened. Duan Musheng's spear techniques were clearly much more powerful than before. "Please hear me out, Pavilion Master," Lani hastily cried out as he retreated. When he saw the spear shadows were about to hit him, he hastily added, "The coffin contains books about the 9-leaf stage." Bam! In the end, Lani was struck by the spear shadows. He flipped and reeled back. After stumbling a few steps back, his back slammed into a pillar. His chest was screaming in pain. His eyes widened as he sized Duan Musheng up. So powerful. Duan Musheng was also shocked by this man's defensive skills. Even Hua Wudao's tortoiseshell energy seal could not easily block it. And yet, this man only stumbled a few steps backward. "Stand down." Lu Zhou waved his hand. Duan Musheng cupped his fists at Lu Zhou and went to the side. Lu Zhou looked at Lani and calmly said, "Bring them to me." Lani endured the pain in his chest as he waved his hand. He could only blame himself for acting rashly and bringing the coffin in without any explanation. After all, in Great Yan, this gesture was extremely disrespectful. One of Lani's subordinates opened the lid and carried one of the thicker books before respectfully presented it to Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou looked at the book skeptically. The 9-leaf cultivation method. There were similar books sold on the streets of Great Yan. They were basically scams. Lani hastily said, 1.900 years ago, my ancestors found this coffin on the shores of the northern border. The personal diary of my ancestors said that there was once a powerful 9-leaf cultivator inside this coffin. Ming Shi Yin said sarcastically, sure, we believe you. Lani said in a clear voice, I swear on the name of the Bona family. If there is an ounce of untruth in my words, my family will be cursed to live as slaves for generations to come. Wow, that's harsh. Carry on. Ming Shi Yin gave him a thumbs up. Lani lowered his voice and slowly said, that cultivator remained in Ruli for a month. He brought some books with him and left Ruli. I heard that he came to Great Yan. Then, he was never heard of ever again. There were too many loopholes in Lani's story. If there had really been a 9-leaf cultivator, why had nobody hailed him as a brilliant genius 1.900 years ago? Why was he not mentioned in the annals of history? There had never been rumors about him in the cultivation world as well. However, Lu Zhou was in no hurry to refute Lani's claims. Instead, he opened the book. The cultivation method in the front pages was similar to Great Yan. In terms of cultivation theories, it was fundamentally similar to the Confucian, Buddhist, and Taoist societies. He skipped to the part of the book where the 9-leaf stage was concerned. Alas, he discovered the pages were smudged with ink, and the writings were almost illegible. There was only one line he managed to make out. The people here are weak. But it's safe here. I hope that it remains like this forever. The words were writing in Great Yan's language. Lu Zhou frowned. He flipped through the other pages and realized they were illegible. Again, he saw the same line. I hope it stays this way forever. I hope it stays like this forever. I hope that there is no 9-leaf stage in the world. I hope that there is no 10-leaf stage in the world. I like gold, not red. There were no cultivation methods. There were only scribbled lines of incohesive thoughts. It was like a prayer and a diary. Lu Zhou looked at Lani standing in the Great Hall. Lani bowed. The covers of the books are protected from decay by special formation veins. The veins are carved into the seams. They can attest to the age of the books. Lu Zhou closed the book. He saw dense veins running along the cover. Alas, they were faded and only a handful of them was still glowing red. In that instant, he remembered the line on the last page. I like gold, not red. This was Lu Zhou's first time seeing red formation veins. He raised his palm and smacked the cover. Boom! The formation vein unleashed a mystical power. A red stamp shot toward the skies. Then, it scattered into the surroundings like butterflies. Due to their age, the stamps were feeble. The power they had stored was nearly depleted. Lu Zhou smacked the book with his hand again. He channeled his primal qi into the cover's veins. It immediately shone with golden radiance. The veins were renewed. The red veins faded away and were replaced by golden ones. Lani nodded. There are 100 veins in total. Every vein can protect the book for 20 years. Every 20 years, one of the veins would fade. Lu Zhou raised his palm. His expression remained the same, but he was inwardly shocked. Indeed, this book was nearly 2.00 years. Do you know where the person inside the coffin is now? Lu Zhou asked. Lani shook his head and said, my family has protected this item for generations. We're searching for that senior as well. We've received no information about the senior up until now. Lu Zhou stroked his beard and pondered. There had never been a shortage of people interested in digging out secrets in this world. Especially when it was about the 9-leaf stage and the 10-leaf stage. At this moment, Lani said, this is the sincerity of the Bona family. I'm willing to give these to the evil Sky Pavilion. It was expected for them to present the books as a gift. But the coffin was really inappropriate. If it were not an antique, Duan Musheng would have long thrown him out of the window. At this moment, Lu Zhou said, I'll accept them. His eyes darkened as he looked at Lani and asked, what do you want? There was no free lunch in this world. One would not be given gifts without having to give something in return. Lani placed his right hand on his shoulder and said in a gentlemanly fashion, I dare not ask for anything in return. But I do have one wish. Let's hear it. We would like to have a glimpse of the grand nine-leaf stage. Is that it? Lani nodded with an eager expression on his face. Lu Zhou walked down the steps with his hands on his back as he said, Ruli has always had the ambition of wild wolves. You've trespassed on our borders numerous times. I'm afraid that a peace proposal is merely a pretext for you to verify something. Lani's face fell. He quickly said, you've misunderstood me. A disguise card costs 10.000 merit points. How can I waste it on some other tribesman? What a joke. Lu Zhou stepped forward. Lani took a step back. At this moment, a deafening cry rang from outside. Chirp. Ming Shi Yin said, It's that livestock. He ran out of the Great Hall. In the skies, the huge winged beast flapped its 50-foot-long wings and squawked outside the barrier. My livestock is going berserk. I'll go tame it at once. Lani hurriedly said. His 4 subordinates followed him out of the Great Hall. Lu Zhou waved his hand. Duan Musheng. Yes, master. Take them down. Yes, master. Although Lu Zhou did not know where these other tribesmen got their confidence from, since they were bold enough to play tricks on the evil sky pavilion, they could not be allowed to leave. Having received the order, Duan Musheng picked up his overlord's spear and pursued them. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Surrender. Duan Musheng would not listen to excuses, so he did not give a chance to speak. 100 spear shadows formed a ferocious spear seal as he attacked. Bam, bam, bam. Lani struck with both palms. His energy blocked the spear shadows, and he flipped backward before dropping to the ground. We came with sincerity. Why must the pavilion master be hostile? Lani's eyes burned with fury. Lu Zhou walked past the coffin slowly. He was still curious about where Lani Bona had gotten his confidence from. He looked at the coffin beside him and saw it was densely covered in dark crimson veins. Defensive formation veins. They were more complicated and powerful than the ones on the book. Lu Zhou emerged from the Great Hall and looked up. The huge bird was starting to attack the barrier. Bam! Ripples spread across the barrier. Ming Shi Yin said speechlessly, Stop pretending. Even your bird can't take it anymore. Lani frowned deeply. He glanced at Tiangu and wondered, how could this be? Bam! Tiangu charged toward Golden Court Mountain's barrier again. Duan Musheng could not stand this any longer. He advanced with his overlord spear. A battle royale instantly broke out before the Great Hall. Duan Musheng fought against 5 opponents on his own. Ming Shi Yin did not jump in hastily. Instead, he observed Tiangu in the skies. It was flapping its wings, sending blasts of energy winds at the barrier. At this moment, several energy arrows were launched from above the southern pavilion and struck Tiangu's huge body. Bam, bam, bam. These attacks were, naturally, from Hua Yuxing. Alas, she only managed to dislodge on its feathers. The other arrows were blocked with a movement of its wings. Chirp. The huge seemed extremely agitated. What is this? Ming Shi Yin's eyes widened. Hua Yuxing was a 3-leaf godly archer, and yet, she could not even handle the beast. Lani turned to look at Lu Zhou as he fought and pleaded at the same time. Pavilion Master, this truly is a misunderstanding. Lu Zhou stroked his beard as he observed the huge bird in the skies. Just when he was about to use Unnamed and turned it into a bow to take the beast down, the mellifluous sound of flute rang in the air. It was slow and soothing, like the gentle churning of a stream between the trees of a forest. When the tune reached the area above the evil sky pavilion, the huge bird seemed to have calmed down and seemed to have regained its senses. Lani's eyes widened. Impossible. The tune continued playing. Who was playing the flute with such skills? The melody floated on the spring breeze and resonated across the city of Luoyang. The melody was pure, devoid of any primal qi, as it was carried by the wind, mesmerizing its listeners. The fact that Concha's flute melody could control wild beasts was common knowledge now. However, for a vicious beast such as Tiangu, whose wild nature was difficult to tame, to obey the commands of the tune was a shocking discovery. Little Yuaner applauded and said, Good, 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 Conch. Continue playing. Keep it up. It's no longer attacking. Hua Yuxing could not understand what was happening. Her energy arrows were no match for the melody of a mere mortal. She could not help but look at the 16-year-old Miss Conch. Conch was fair without any flaws. Her movements were graceful and moving. The look in her eyes as she played the flute was solemn and resolute. This was probably an inherent talent. Lu Zhou was surprised as well. Tiangu was no ordinary beast. It seemed to have undergone some special Rulian training for it to be so powerful. Although it could not breach the barrier, based on its attack, it was clear it was strong. Meanwhile, Duan Musheng brandished his overlord spear in front of the Great Hall. Lani and his subordinates surrounded Duan Musheng. The overlord's spear stabbed to the left and right. Pavilion Master, this is all a big misunderstanding. I can explain. Lani did not expect a single evil Sky Pavilion disciple to be this powerful. This disciple of the evil Sky Pavilion did not seem to feel any pressure fighting 5 opponents alone. Instead, as the fight progressed, he seemed even more invigorated and fought even more valiantly. He knew that he could not allow this battle to drag on. Also, there were many who were watching this battle. When the others from the evil Sky Pavilions make their moves, it would be too late. Duan Musheng cursed. What's there to explain? Die. Duan Musheng suddenly waved his arm. The fruits of his constant training under the waterfall were clearly displayed at this moment. The speed at which he wielded his spear and the precision was almost flawless. Rulians had always been known for their agility, speed, and physical strength. However, at this moment, they were all pushed back by Duan Musheng. Someone has bewitched Tiangu. They wanted to spur you into attacking. Pavilion Master. Lani kept dodging as he explained loudly. Lu Zhou looked up and glanced at Tiangu, who was now hovering obediently above the barrier. Ming Shi Yin smiled and said, "If you're sincere, why would you bewitch Tiangu?" Lani frowned deeply. "I like your move of advancing by retreating. I must say that you've inherited most of my skills. But alas, that's not enough." Ming Shi Yin finally joined in the fray. Bam! Bam! 2 of Rulians were sent flying by Ming Shi Yin. Ming Shi Yin chuckled gleefully. "Here comes your grandfather, me." His entrance into the fight turned the tide of the battle immediately. At this moment, Lani began making hand signs. He made a strange hand seal with his hands and launched it. Whiz, whiz, whiz. The coffin inside the Great Hall began to move. Lani retreated as a Wolf King avatar appeared. 5-leaf. When the avatar appeared, the coffin shone with red radiance as it sailed toward it. Ming Shi Yin dodged the coffin. Duan Musheng landed a few quick stabs on one end of the coffin. He was surprised to find that not a scratch could be seen on the coffin at all. What's it made of? It's so tough. The coffin started to spin. It flew in a sweeping motion as it spun. Bam! Duan Musheng raised his overlord spear before himself to block it. Under the heavy impact, he spun back. The abnormality of the coffin was finally on display. Duan Musheng could not move it, not even with his heaven-grade overlord spear. The surface of the coffin kept glowing with a faint red light. This was rare among formation veins. When primal chi was condensed into energy, it would take on a golden hue. Why was the coffin shining with a red light? Ming Shi Yin gave up on the coffin. He dove toward the 5-leaf Lani. Capture the king to capture the thief. He held his separation hook in a backhand grip as he moved at lightning speed. Lani pushed with both palms. His Wolf King avatar pounced. Shockingly, and no less strange, the golden lotus under the Wolf King avatar shone with a red light as well. Red. Lu Zhou's expression darkened. He recalled a line from the book again. I like gold. Not red. Was it referring to this red light? Bam! Ming Shi Yin drew his sword across Lani's energy shield. He retreated and hovered in the air. When he focused his gaze, he noticed ripples in Lani's energy that was quickly restored. What a mysterious object. Ming Shi Yin turned to look at the coffin. Duan Musheng was occupied by it. Who would believe that a mere 5-leaf cultivator was capable of dealing with Duan Musheng and Ming Shi Yin at the same time? However, Duan Musheng and Ming Shi Yin were only at the 3-leaf and the 4-leaf stage. It would be arrogant for them to think they were the only powerful ones in the wide world. The red formation veins on the coffin were indeed intriguing. Shortly after, the red light on the coffin shone with greater intensity. Bam! Duan Musheng's arms felt numb from the impact. He had no choice but to retreat. The coffin hovered before Lani. He was flanked by his subordinates. He said, "Pavilion Master, I've traveled to visit you. I have no wish to make an enemy out of you. I'm here in the hopes of establishing a friendship. Why must you be so hostile?" Ming Shi Yin said coldly, "Save your breath. Don't think that you can leave this place in one piece after causing such a scene. The Evil Sky Pavilion isn't a place where you can come and go as you please." This tactic of advancing by retreating was too common. Great Yan was more familiar with it compared to Ruli. Lani looked up at Tiangu and flipped his palm. The coffin spun. Lu Zhou raised his palm. A palm seal sailed toward the coffin. Bam! The coffin continued spinning. However, this palm strike seemed to make Lani happy and excited. "Aha! I knew it. You're not a 9-leaf cultivator." Lu Zhou was puzzled. "I only launched a single palm strike. How can he tell that I'm not a 9-leaf cultivator?" Lani began laughing maniacally. "What I said is true. This coffin is real, and the books are real as well. The owner of the coffin once said that only a 9-leaf cultivator is powerful enough to break the formation veins of this coffin. The people of Great Yan are shameless and despicable for spreading false information about the 9-leaf stage." He suddenly flicked his finger. A beam of light shot toward Tiangu in the air. Swish! The light hit Tiangu between its eyes. Chirp! The deafening cry from the beast was unbearably deafening. At this moment, the song of the flute abruptly came to a halt. Lu Zhou looked at Conch and Little Yuanair, who was standing above the southern pavilion. Little Yuanair and Hua Yuxing shielded Conch behind them. Energy arrows were formed and fired. Bam! 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 Meanwhile, Lu Zhou saw Lani jump onto the coffin before he flew into the sky. Lu Zhou looked at the deadly strike card and sighed. He thought of his extraordinary power. Then, he pointed at 2 of Lani's subordinates and said, "Take them down." Duan Musheng and Ming Shi Yin nodded in unison. A spear and a hook shot toward the 2 Rulians. Lu Zhou no longer hesitated. He stepped into the air. He spread his arms and straightened them before flipping them. He pushed his hand out, and a blue palm seal shot out from his palm. The scripts for abandoned wisdom appeared between his fingers. This palm seal seemed to contain enough power to destroy the world. While standing on the coffin, Lani sensed the incoming huge palm seal. The massive palm seal seemed to bring with it 4 stars as it soared upward. Boom! His abandoned wisdom attack hit the coffin. Based on his calculations, 1/3 of his extraordinary power should be enough to kill Lani in an instant. However, when the palm seal struck the coffin, it burst forth with a web-like scarlet light. When the palm seal and the red light collided, an explosion of energy rippled into the surroundings. The red coffin reeled back and dimmed. Lani was affected by the backlash from the palm seal. His back arched with his limbs facing down as he fell toward the ground. Facing the sky, he spat out a mouthful of blood when he hit the ground. Bam! The coffin and Lani were sent out of the barrier by the attack. That was how a barrier worked. It was easy to get out but difficult to get in. Moreover, they had suffered damage from the palm strike. A single palm strike was all that was needed to deal heavy damage to Lani. Ming Shi Yin and Duan Musheng easily took care of the 2 subordinates. They looked up at the same time. Their master's palm seal. This was Lu Zhou's second instance of using abandoned wisdom. The first time he used it was during the battle in Liang province. He launched it while diving from above. The Confucian school's abandoned wisdom usually required the user to join both palms and use all their power. However, Lu Zhou unleashed it with a single palm with greater might and greater destructive strength. The coffin spun as it flew back. It was no longer glowing. However, Lu Zhou did not receive a notification from the system. This puzzled him. With his 5-leaf avatar and 1/3 of his extraordinary power, it should have been enough to kill Lani. How did Lani survive? Lu Zhou looked at the coffin and Lani. As he expected, there was more to the coffin than meets the eyes. Lu Zhou stepped into the air and flew toward the coffin. He pirouetted in midair, releasing faint blue light from his feet before he stepped on the coffin. Boom! A ripple spread out from the tips of his toes like a heavenly light. The others were awed by the sight. The Evil Sky Pavilion disciples were all admiring this scene. They looked on as their master rose to the skies. Since their master had made a move, there was no need for them to do anything. They truly enjoyed watching their master's energy seal. Lu Zhou stepped on the coffin and forced it back into the barrier. The coffin spun into the barrier. Ming Shi Yin and Duan Musheng understood Lu Zhou's thoughts. They took flight at the same time and caught the coffin with their energies. At this moment, Tiangu suddenly flapped its wings. Chirp! With the deafening and shrill cry, a gust of violent wind was stirred up. Lu Zhou paused in midair. A two-leaf nascent divinity cultivation base was slightly too weak. After all, as he reeled back, Lani fought back the pain in his internal organs, and he flew toward Tiangu. He seemed desperate now. His eyes were bloodshot as he stood on Tiangu's back. He cried out in anger. "What are you waiting for? Go!" A sharp cry rang in the air. Under Lani's command, Tiangu flapped its wings and fled in a frenzy. Lani turned to look at Lu Zhou, who was coming toward him in the air. He tapped his own meridian points and said in a clear voice, "Even if you're not a 9-leaf cultivator, you're at least a 7 or 8-leaf cultivator." Feeling relaxed now, he patted Tiangu's back as he continued to say, "After getting away from this battle, the Bona family will one day flatten the entire Great Yan." At this moment, an imposing voice rang from behind him. "Did I say you're allowed to leave?" Lani's heart shuddered. His eyes widened as he turned back to have a look. He saw Lu Zhou, that old man, chasing after him on Wizard's back. The pursuer and the one being pursued. Lu Zhou was approaching Lani as Wizard picked up speed. In a few breaths, faster, Lani sunk his palm into Tiangu's body. Tiangu had wings to begin with. With its wild way of flying and speed, it seemed like a comet in the skies. Alas, its opponent was Wizard. Wizard was a mount whose speed and agility were on par with Tiangu. If not superior, they would only be able to maintain the distance if they flew at the same speed. Lu Zhou stood on Wizard's back as he stroked his beard with his left hand and raised his right palm. He pointed it upward and conjured up his primal chi. Blue radiance shone from between his fingers again as the scripts, "Abandon Wisdom," appeared. He straightened his arm. Whiz! When the palm seal appeared, it resonated clearly in the air. Meanwhile, Lani unleashed all his primal chi and condensed it into energy. While his arms were crossed, a round formation vein rune shielded him. Lu Zhou found this strange. The formation vein reminded him of the seal formation method of Great Yan's Confucian societies. However, that was not important now. At this moment, the massive Abandon Wisdom's palm seal landed on Lani and grazed Tiangu. Lani widened his eyes. The formation vein before his arms cracked and shattered. It could not withstand Abandon Wisdom. Boom! Lani and Tiangu fell. At this moment, a group of people inside the forest looked up and saw Tiangu flapping its wings as it fell. "Stick to the plan and support the chief." Several cultivators in tights shuttled through the forest and headed toward Tiangu's landing point at blinding speed. Lu Zhou waved his arm and recalled Wizard. He was puzzled as he looked at Tiangu and Lani falling toward the ground. "Why am I not hearing the system's notification? A trap? Fated bond?" A strange term appeared unbidden in Lu Zhou's mind before realization dawned on him. No wonder Lani was so confident and was bold enough to bring a coffin to him. How sly! The fated bond was a method to share power in Great Yan. It was then adapted into witchcraft. When Si Wuya was afflicted by the binding mantra back then, he once thought of using Zhu Honggong to trick his master into breaking the mantra through this linking technique. The difference was, Lani had tied his own life with that of Tiangu's. In other words, Tiangu's life was Lani's life. So long as Tiangu survives, he would not die. £1,000 drop. Lu Zhou Dove. Lani had lost the ability to fight. With the strike from the Abandon Wisdom's palm seal, his body's functions were severely affected. Boom! Tiangu crashed into the dense forest and stirred up a cloud of dust. Whoosh! 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 From the forest in the distance, several figures closed in on Tiangu at blinding speed. When Lu Zhou descended near the canopy, he stopped and observed the ground from the air. This was the best vantage point. He looked up. 100 figures flew toward him while maintaining a low altitude from the north. A trap. However, Lu Zhou did not think Lani was a scheming person. The clouds of dust finally settled. The 100 individuals were closing in on him while flying on their swords. Lu Zhou's gaze fell upon Tiangu. Lani raised his palm with difficulty and placed his palm on Tiangu. A pebble-like spot of light flew into its forehead. He wiped the blood away from his mouth and smiled arrogantly. He clearly thought he had triumphed over Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou saw the people rushing toward him through the forest. He saw them move over Lani's body, carry him up, and headed back. He did not know which sect those 100 sword cultivators belonged to, nor did he know if they were friends or foes. No matter, Lu Zhou raised his palm. A disguise card appeared in his palm. He closed his fingers. A faint energy leaked out from his palm as the card shattered. Whiz! A 150-foot avatar towered in the air. The golden lotus under its feet seemed to be full of life as it shone with dazzling brilliance. 9 shining golden leaves spun around the golden lotus at a constant speed. While being carried on the cultivators' backs, Lani opened his eyes and felt his heart stop beating for an instant. 9 leaf. Lu Zhou stood proudly above his avatar's golden lotus. Regardless of the origins of the 100 sword cultivators, he projected his voice with rich primal qi and ordered, "Take down the other tribesmen." The 100 sword cultivators were initially passing by with a mission to complete. Tiangu's sighs and cries had attracted their attention. Hence, they came with their swords in hands. The 100 sword cultivators saw the pair of huge wings diving down while they were several miles away. Since people were battling nearby, they hoped to reap benefits from the battle as a third party. Their objective was to claim Tiangu as their own. However, when they were about 1 mile away from the spot, they saw Tiangu being struck by a huge palm seal. They stopped to observe the battle and saw an old man behind Tiangu. The old man's white hair danced as he stood in the wind. His eyes were sharp. He wore Taoist robes. His aura alone was sufficient to strike fearful respect in them. 3 feet of ice was not formed in a single day. An old man with this aura would not be a weakling. However, when they were about to continue flying, an avatar rose from the ground. It was 150 foot tall and 40 foot wide. 9 leaves spun around its golden lotus. The 100 sword cultivators were stunned, riveted to their spots motionlessly. At the same time, they heard the voice of the old man. "Take down the other tribesmen." The show of 9 leaves, naturally, intimidated everyone. They would obey him, regardless if he was friend or foe. They immediately dismissed their thoughts of catching Tiangu. They looked in the direction Lu Zhou pointed and saw several cultivators fleeing from the area Tiangu had fallen. Time waited for no man. The leading elder no longer admired the 9-leaf golden lotus. He averted his gaze and said in a deep voice, "Take down the other tribesmen. Take down the other tribesmen." Who would dare disobey the order of a 9-leaf cultivator? They put all distracting thoughts on hold for now. The 100 sword cultivators swarmed toward their targets as they gave chase on their swords at top speed. With a 9-leaf cultivator asking for their help, they became excited and wanted to do their very best. They had never felt this way before. The sword cultivators enthusiastically chased after the other tribesmen. They conjured up several energy swords each as they advanced in a sweeping manner. Trees fell and the collisions of energy swords filled the air. They moved like swimming schools of fish. Lani Boner felt as though his eyeballs were going to pop out of their sockets as he was being carried. He urged his people. A hint of desperation could be heard in his voice. "Run! Faster!" The Evil Sky Pavilion's master was truly at the 9-leaf stage. It was not a farce. Why did he not launch an attack when he was at the Evil Sky Pavilion back then? Was he being toyed with? He suddenly remembered that cats liked to play with mice, pawing at the mice before killing them. The mice would not be able to escape even if they were given wings. A deep sense of helplessness and despair rose in his heart, making it difficult for him to breathe. At this moment, his comrades, who were carrying him, suddenly stopped moving. Lani frowned and asked, "Why are you stopping? FCKU, what do you think?" His comrades cursed at him internally. The person carrying him tensed his arms and tossed Lani away. He drew an arc in the air before he fell with a thud on the ground. The comrade looked to the left and right. Then, he turned around and looked up at the 9-leaf avatar. 10 seconds was just right. It was not long nor short. He saw the avatar, and his breathing was ragged as he cursed. "DMNU for dragging me into this." Lani was suffering from heavy internal injuries from 2 strikes of abandoned wisdom. He only survived because Tiangu took most of the brunt for him. Fated Bond had practically channeled all of the damage onto Tiangu. Even so, he was on the verge of death. He could hardly withstand the fall. He had no way of voicing out his pain at all. I had no FC King way of knowing that he was a real 9-leaf cultivator as well. The coffin left by his ancestors had clearly proved that the Pavilion Master was not a 9-leaf elite. How did this happen? At this moment, the 100 sword cultivators searched the area on their swords. Elder, this way. Target spotted. Capture them alive if you can. Understood. Lani's comrades could not care about anything else at this moment. They gritted their teeth and pointed at Lani, who was lying on the ground, as they said accusatorily, "You've brought this upon yourself." Then, they turned around to flee. Several sword cultivators landed among the trees. They carried Lani between them and flew back. The other sword cultivators continued to give chase. 100 sword cultivators pursued them. Wails could be heard every now and then. The scene of one party bullying another with numbers seemed dull but interesting as well. Lu Zhou watched the proceedings in the air. He stroked his beard with one hand and placed the other hand on his back. The 9-leaf stage sure is convenient. The timing was just right. If the 100 sword cultivators did not pass by at this moment, he would have to use 6 deadly strike cards to kill all the other tribesmen. Now, it seemed like he could save his cards. After what seemed like hours, the 100 sword cultivators returned on their swords. 2 of them were carrying a dejected and lethargic Lani between them. They arranged themselves in a square formation and tidied up their ranks. When the leading elder saw that they were neatly arranged, he lifted his robes slightly as he rose into the air and saluted Lu Zhou. "Greetings, old senior. May I ask if you are the Evil Sky Pavilion's old senior G?" Lu Zhou gazed at him and calmly asked, "You know me?" Lu Zhou's words were as good as directly confirming his identity. The leading elder bowed and cupped his fists together at once and said, "I'm Ma King of the Qingyun Sword Sect. Greetings, old senior G." The others bowed in unison. "Greetings, old senior G. Why did you come here?" Lu Zhou asked. "We were invited by the Penblai sect to a banquet on their island." "Old senior G." Ma King replied honestly. He did not dare to dally. The Penblai sect. Lu Zhou thought about it for a moment. Huang Shiji, the Penblai Island's master, had been at Jing province some time ago. Was Penblai in some sort of trouble right now? Ma King replied, "The Penblai floating island is facing some difficulties. The Qingyun sword sect has always been on good terms with Penblai Island. It's only natural for us to lend a helping hand." When Lu Zhou heard this, he did not ask for further information. Their affairs had nothing to do with him after all. At this moment, Ma King pointed at the half-dead Lani and said, "Old senior G, the other tribesmen are wiped out. This man is the only survivor. Even then, it seems like he's on his last breath." "Very well." Lu Zhou stroked his beard calmly. He would give praise where it was due. The Qingyun sword sect disciples felt delighted to hear this. Ma King moved 2 of his fingers slightly. An energy sword hovered before himself as he said, "Anyone who is not of our own tribe is a deviant. There's no need to trouble yourself over such a character. Old senior G, I'll put him out of his misery." His energy sword shot out and split into 5 blades, all of which were aimed at Lani. Ma King was about to go in for the kill when Lu Zhou tonelessly said, "Stop. Your orders, old senior." Ma King recalled his energy swords at once. He did not dare make a move. He immediately bowed and awaited further directions. Rulians are cunning and scheming in nature. I can't let him die so easily. Lu Zhou replied, "You're right, old senior. I was careless. How could I use such a crude method?" Ma King turned around. "Execute him with a sword formation." Lu Zhou frowned slightly. "I've pursued him for a long time. And you're trying to steal the kill?" A mosquito was still a piece of flesh. "Stand down." Lu Zhou lowered his tone. "Ha!" At this moment, Lu Zhou readied his palm. When Ma King saw this, he waved his hand at once. "Understood. Stand back, everyone." "Yes, yes, yes." The Qingyun sword sect disciples flew to the sides with puzzled expressions. Lu Zhou conjured up his extraordinary power. A blue radiance glowed between his fingers, and the scripts for abandoned wisdom appeared again. Ma King exclaimed in a hoarse and surprised voice, "Abandoned wisdom? At this moment, Lani's eyes suddenly snapped open as he flailed his arms. The 2 disciples of the Qingyun sword sect were sent flying. Lu Zhou struck with his palm. Ma King frowned. Indeed, Rulians are sly. Lu Zhou initially intended to use 1/3 of his extraordinary power. Yet, when he saw that Lani was capable of holding out until this moment, anger stirred in him. He said coldly, "You won't be able to live if I want you to die." Abandon Wisdom's palm seal doubled in size. It doubled in speed as well. Lani Bona, who had just started sprinting away, felt his heart shudder as he said in fright, "Is this the 9-leaf stage?" Despair and helplessness rose in his heart as the palm seal sailed toward him. Boom! The palm seal landed firmly on Lani's body. His face, chest, and limbs felt as though they were crushed by blue magma that washed over him. Although the Qingyun sword sect was a Taoist cultivation sect, the Confucian school and Taoist societies had always had a good understanding of each other. The abandoned wisdom Ma King knew was completely different from the abandoned wisdom Lu Zhou had cast. He had never seen anyone launch a palm seal with just a single hand. Whether it was from below, above, or launched with a single hand, they made no difference for Lu Zhou. He was only hitting a fly. It would die no matter how he hit it. Only those who were not strong enough would think about smashing the fly against the wall or against the ground. After the palm seal landed, the target was reduced to ashes that scattered in the wind. There was no longer any trace of another tribesman there. Ding! Killed a target. Reward: 3.000 merit points. Note: the target of fated bond was included. The palm seal did not fade away. Instead, it continued moving forward, flying down. Boom! Dozens of trees fell with a crash. When the clouds of dust settled, a clear palm print could be seen on the ground. The others did not even dare to breathe loudly. Many of them gulped in fear as they looked at the palm print and wondered just how powerful old villain Ji was. They did not expect the legendary old villain Ji to be so vicious. As expected, none of the members of the evil Sky Pavilion were nice people. It was no wonder that practically nobody survived when the 7 great sects laid siege on the evil Sky Pavilion. They were indeed merciless. However, it had to be said they felt satisfied as well. After all, compared to the evil Sky Pavilion, the members of the Qingyun sword sect loathed the other tribesmen more. Although old villain Ji's attack was an overkill, it was still satisfying to watch the other tribesmen being killed. Lu Zhou retracted his palm. He did not earn much from this battle. He basically depleted his extraordinary power to kill Lani. With the palm strike and the intimidating effect of a 9-leaf cultivator, the sword cultivators of the Qingyun sword sect showed their allegiance to him. For some reason, old villain Ji was not hostile toward them, but they could not help but feel that the atmosphere was peculiar. This made him nervous, and some of them even began to tremble. After a moment's silence, a gust of wind blew this suppressive atmosphere away. Ma King cupped his fists and said, "Your abandoned wisdom has truly widened our horizons. Old Senior Ji, you've widened our horizons." The other disciples did not know how they should express what they felt, so they echoed Ma King's words. Lu Zhou looked at them calmly as he stroked his beard and said, "I'm not an unreasonable person. You've played a part in eliminating the other tribesmen. I'll grant you that beast. Tiangu, a living Tiangu could be of some help. A dead one was useless. A vicious beast that roamed the great forests would have tough and dry flesh that was not even palatable. It might even be poisonous. So, it could not even be served as food." Lu Zhou knew they were ignorant, so he said, "Tiangu was a vicious beast of the land. The radiance it leaves in its wake is like a meteor in the skies that extends for several hundred feet. It moves like the wind, cries like a clap of thunder, and shines like a bolt of lightning. Its hide can be used as powerful armor, and its bones are earth grade. Many dream to get their hands on this beast." When Ma King heard this, he was clearly overjoyed. His eyes lit up, and he hastily bowed. "Your explanation has enlightened us. Listening to your explanation is better than reading books for 10 years. We were foolish and ignorant. Thank you for bestowing Tiangu to us, Senior." The others were shocked after listening to Lu Zhou's words as well. They bowed and thanked him. "Thank you, old Senior Ji." Ding! Received pious worshipping from 105 men. Reward: 1.050 merit points. The matter was finally settled. At this moment, Lu Zhou remembered the mysterious coffin and the secret tomes of cultivation methods. He no longer lingered at this place. He waved his arm, and Wizard came on the clouds. Lu Zhou leaped onto Wizard and flew away. The members of the Qingyun sword sect bowed. Safe journey, senior. Wizard vanished among the clouds in just a blink of an eye. Ma King looked up at this moment with a faraway and admiring gaze. He muttered, "This trip is well worth it. I got to see a 9-leaf expert with my own eyes." The others nodded in agreement. When Lu Zhou returned to the Evil Sky Pavilion, the sun was already setting. Duan Musheng hovered outside the barrier and waited quietly for his master's return. When he saw Wizard, he bowed when Lu Zhou was still some ways away. "Master." Lu Zhou leaped off Wizard's back. He moved as though he was light as a feather. He passed through the barrier and asked, "What's the situation?" The 2 other tribesmen were already dealt with by 4th junior brother and me. "It's little Conch that seems slightly off." Duan Musheng replied, "I'll take a look." Lu Zhou flew toward the southern pavilion. When he landed there, he walked toward little Yuana's room. Many female cultivators were already there. "Pavilion master, master." The others made way for Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou's appearance greatly reassured them. Little Yuana walked up to him and said, "Conch says that she remembers some things." Lu Zhou thought that Conch was injured. As he entered the room, he saw Conch supporting her own head with both hands as she leaned back on a chair. She did not look too good. Lu Zhou walked up to Conch and sat down slowly. He said, "Give me your hand." Oh, Conch was obedient. After examining her pulse, Lu Zhou nodded slowly. Her body was fine. Lu Zhou looked at Conch and gently asked, "What do you remember?" Conch said, Red lotus." Something stirred within Lu Zhou. He was shocked. He did his best to maintain a neutral expression so that he would not scare Miss Conch. He raised a palm. Whiz! A miniature avatar hovered above his palm. Under the avatar, 2 leaves were spinning around the golden lotus. Ming Shi Yin, little Yuanair, and Duan Musheng glanced at it. They nodded silently. Master's control over his avatar has truly reached great heights. With his skills, he can easily control the number of leaves on his avatar. After all, it was extremely wasteful of primal chi to manifest all of one's leaves. Lu Zhou pointed at the golden lotus and asked, "Little girl, is this what the lotus you mentioned looks like?" Conch blinked. After observing it, she nodded. Lu Zhou clenched his fist. His avatar vanished. Although he was as steady as an old dog, he was still shocked. Conch's words meant that someone was cultivating the red lotus. "Do you remember where?" Lu Zhou asked. Conch pouted. She shook her head and said, "I don't know." At this moment, Ming Shi Yin interjected. "Master, is she saying that someone is cultivating a red lotus? This can't be real, right?" Duan Musheng nodded and said, "Nobody has ever cultivated a red lotus. However, they suddenly recalled their master's blue lotus and the barrier's power as well." He said, "Could it be some sort of mutation caused by a secret technique?" Under normal circumstances, the energy condensed from primal chi was golden. Fiend Zen would cause it to turn black. Healing made it green, and absorbing the barrier made it blue. However, this was their first time encountering the color red. Lu Zhou did not answer their questions. He remembered the book and the coffin. The young girl might be lying or have dreamt about it. They could not rely on her words alone. They would need concrete evidence to authenticate her words. He remembered the row of words on the final page of the book. "I hope it stays this way forever. I hope that there are no 9-leaf cultivators in this world. I hope that there are no 10-leaf cultivators in this world." What did those sentences mean? Lu Zhou pondered about this for a moment before he looked at Conch again and asked, "What else do you remember?" "I don't remember anything else." Conch shook her head helplessly. "Amnesia," Lu Zhou guessed. At this moment, Ming Shi Yin bowed and said, "Master, I don't think she has amnesia." A person with amnesia has either lost their memories or sealed the memories. When they try to recall their memories, it will certainly trigger some reaction in their heads. Yet, here she is, sitting here unaffected, said Ming Shi Yin. "I suspect that she's more likely in some pre-awakened state." "Why do you say that?" Lu Zhou thought about this before as well, but he could not be sure. Some are born with innate abilities while some are born to cultivate. For example, the Fefik, Sicha's sixth junior sister, can reconstruct their extraordinary 8 meridians naturally. They can even reconstruct a destroyed sea of qi. Ming Shi Yin stroked his chin as he inferred. She remembers how to play the tunes and remembers the appearance of the lotus. This means that the consciousness is still inside her mind. Lu Zhou nodded and said, "You're saying that if she starts to cultivate and enter the sense-condensing realm, the consciousness can be fortified." "You're brilliant, Master. If the consciousness is fortified, her fuzzy memories will certainly grow clearer," Ming Shi Yin said. For a cultivator, the body-tempering stage and the mystic enlightening realm were related to the physical body. Starting from the sense-condensing realm, they would start to train their consciousness. Ming Shi Yin had a point. At least, this was a lead. They were no longer clueless. However, there was the matter of conch skipping the body-tempering stage and directly entering the mystic enlightening realm. How was she supposed to cultivate when her meridian vessels were fragile? Ming Shi Yin smiled and said, "I know what can be used to help this young girl solve her fragile meridian vessels." Lu Zhou's interest was piqued. "Well, what do you know? Old Fourth seems more and more likable now. Although he can be too crafty sometimes, he never disappoints when it comes to it." Although Lu Zhou had 1,000 years of memories and experience, he was not omnipotent. "What item is so wonderful?" Ming Shi Yin said. "Lanshan jade." Lu Zhou stroked his beard and said, "A luxury item sought after by some merchants and aristocrats. What can it be used for?" "This Lanshan jade isn't that Lanshan jade. Rumor has it that there's a type of jade in the eastern seas that exists inside the bellies of fishes. It absorbs the essence of the sea over the years and is full of spiritual qi. A wearer of this item will find their skin as smooth as jade and their extraordinary 8 meridians as deep as moats. Nourishing one's meridian vessels in this way can temper them. Given time," Ming Shi Yin replied. Something stirred in Lu Zhou's memories when he heard Ming Shi Yin's words. He nodded approvingly. Indeed, there was such a jade in existence. However, this item was extremely rare and difficult to find. Now that the cultivation world was in a lotus-severing frenzy, everyone was busy sprouting leaves. This was especially true for the grand cultivators who had experience wielding multiple leaves. Naturally, they were more confident in cultivating again. Every second was precious to them. With time being priceless now, nobody could spare their time looking for the Lanshan jade. Lu Zhou wanted to think about another method when he remembered Penglai Island. He remembered a rumor about the Lanshan jade many years ago. Hence, he said, "Send a letter to Si Wuya. If Huang Shiji is there, have him send a Lanshan jade over." "Yes, Master." Ming Shi Yin turned around and left. Lu Zhou studied conch and remembered the diary. He wondered if this young girl shared the same origins as the person who was inside that coffin. Anyway, it was useless to ponder on these things now. Everything would become clear once she was awakened. It was meaningless to rush things. Yuan Air. "Yes, Master. Protect Conch well," Lu Zhou said. "I will certainly protect little sister Conch." Little Yuan Air waved her fist and bared her canine teeth. "All right, I'll believe you since you've displayed such an attitude." Lu Zhou initially thought that little Yuan Air would grow jealous with the addition of this young girl. However, it seemed like he was worried for nothing. He could not help but feel the little girl had truly grown up. When Lu Zhou made his way back to the Eastern Pavilion, he brought the secret tomes with him. Duan Musheng followed him. He bowed and asked, "Master, the coffin, what should we do with it?" Usually, such an inauspicious object should have been discarded. However, when he thought about the unique formation veins on its surface, Lu Zhou said, "Keep it in the Northern Pavilion." Lu Zhou was about to leave when he added, "Have someone copy the formation veins on it." "Yes, Master." When he returned to the Eastern Pavilion, he did not meditate on the heavenly writing scrolls immediately. As usual, he checked the old parchment drawing for any changes on the map. Like before, he could see all 9 provinces of Great Yan and Penglai Island in the oceanic regions. According to the system's mission and Huang Shiji's statement, the Luo woman most likely visited Penglai Island before. When he thought about this, Lu Zhou wondered if this Luo woman was from the same place the coffin's occupant was, since she could help Yun Tianlo attain the 8-leaf stage. Lu Zhou opened the secret tome. He went through it again. The cultivation methods recorded in the earlier parts of the book were basically the same as Great Yan. After checking it thrice, he noticed nothing strange about it. When he reached the part where the 9-leaf cultivation method, apart from the smudged sentences, he saw the same words. The people here are weak. But it's very safe here. Weak? How is weak equated to safe? Also, why did the coffin's occupant wish that there would be no 9-leaf cultivators here? Lu Zhou had an inkling that the key to reaching the 9-leaf stage from the 8-leaf stage lay here. He continued to flip through the pages. A red lotus was printed on the center of the book's back cover. The 9 leaves were lifelike. Perhaps it was due to the coffin owner's hesitation. He drew a few lines over the lotus. There was a line that read, "Nobody can live forever." There was nothing else. When he read this final sentence, he noticed that it was written with heavy strokes that seemed to bleed to the back of the page. Could this be a kind of truth that he believed in? Lu Zhou was puzzled. He placed the book on the table and no longer read it. The remainder of his time should be spent meditating on the heavenly writing scrolls. If the Luo woman truly had a connection with Penblai Island, Lu Zhou would have to go there. Without the extraordinary power to keep himself safe, he would have fallen to solely rely on the item cards to keep him safe. I won't agree to a losing deal, no matter what. In Moonlight Woodland, far away from the southwestern part of Great Yan, a perpetual mist hung over an area that rarely saw the sun. Only the moon was commonly seen hanging above the branches. Through the thin layer of mist, the moonlight made this place look like paradise. Yi Tianxin, fully clad in white, stopped under a tree. She took a sip from the water skin and hung it on her waist. Is it really here? Yi Tianxin pushed away from the ground and flew toward the depths of the forest. The 100-meter-tall trees and the seemingly endless forest made her feel that she was in the wrong place. Misty Forest, Moonlight Woodland. This was a place away from the other tribes. It was said that those who entered the Misty Forest would forever be lost until their eventual demise in the forest. Many other tribesmen cultivators would only attempt to capture some low-rank beasts at the periphery of the forest. Yi Tianxin had one objective, and that was to find Cheng Huang. She walked and stopped in the dense forest. When she encountered massive beasts, she chose to hide and avoid them. When she encountered winged beasts that navigated the trees with ease, she chose to lay low and conceal her presence. Sometimes, she would make mistakes and had no choice but to fight the beasts. This, naturally, meant she would get hurt as well sometimes. It had been more than 10 days since she came to the Moonlight Woodland and ventured deep into the misty forest. Every 10 days, she would feel thirsty. That was when she would drink. As the rumors suggested, it seemed like she had already lost her way a long time ago. After resting, she continued on her journey among the tree. A unique sound caught her attention at this moment. It resounded throughout her surroundings. She frowned. Her experience in the misty forest told her that this was a unique beast. She slowed down and stuck close to the ground as she concealed her aura. The mist hung in the air. She could not see anything ahead of her. All she could do was hold her breath. Creak, creak, creak. The sound was getting closer. Yi Tianxin felt an intense and dangerous aura approaching her. It was much more overbearing than all the combined auras of the beasts she had encountered. At this moment, the mist of the misty forest was swept away. Yi Tianxin gritted her teeth lightly. Her palms were drenched in sweat. She was like a divine flower in the grass, as white as snow. Although she was motionless, she still stuck out like a sore thumb. The beast was not coming at her from her front, left, or right, above. Yi Tianxin's curiosity caused her to slowly look up. The moment she looked up, she saw something that she would not forget anytime soon. A pair of faint golden eyes could be vaguely seen through the thin mist. They were as large as soccer balls as they moved about. Yi Tianxin's heart thumped against her ribcage. Her eyes were filled with awe. Creak, creak. The vicious beast seemed to be inching closer toward her. Its huge head passed through the mist and appeared before Yi Tianxin. What made her heart race further was that the spot on which she stood was where the beast's nose was. It seemed to be sniffing in search of food. Yi Tianxin was only as large as its nostril. She had never seen such a huge beast before. There was a saying in Buddhist teachings that all meetings were the will of the heavens. All encounters were fated. There was no such thing as being early or late. You would meet the very person you were supposed to meet at the right time. The beast's fur was completely white. Its nose was sharp. It had 2 huge horns on its head. Its eyes were narrow and slender like the crescent moon. It was squinting as it looked at Yi Tianxin as though trying to figure out if she was food or something else. Yi Tianxin dared not move. Although she was a 6-leaf cultivator, she was not confident she could escape from this colossal creature. It was no wonder people said only 8-leaf cultivators dared to venture deep into the 4 forests. Yi Tianxin could not see its body. She could only see its head. If she had to describe its looks, she would say that it resembled a slenderer version of a white fox. You! The beast cried out. Run! Yi Tianxin pushed away all distracting thoughts as she unleashed her avatar. Whiz! Her 6-leaf golden lotus avatar rose to a height of 70 feet. Grand technique! Yi Tianxin turned and fled. Strangely, she felt a gust of wind before she felt her body and avatar being wrapped by something. It felt as though the world was spinning and being tossed in the air before falling down at the same time. She could not control her primal chi at all. You! Another sharp cry rang in the air. Yi Tianxin finally landed. To be precise, it felt she had landed on soft white feathers. She did not have time to check her surroundings when a strong wind blew against her. This is bad. Yi Tianxin conjured up her primal chi and formed an energy shield to block the wind. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Realization suddenly dawned on Yi Tianxin. She was on the back of the beast. The massive beast was carrying her as it navigated through the forest at a blinding speed. After what seemed like hours of running, the thin layer of mist faded. The layer that hung in the air parted. The beast was moving with lightning speed as it carried Yi Tianxin on its back. Every stride it took covered several hundred meters. She could see more clearly now. Under the moonlight, it seemed to be 150 feet long. Apart from the white patch on its head, the beast was yellow in color. Against the moon, it leaped off a cliff. A name surfaced in Yi Tianxin's mind. Cheng Huang. The Fairfic had described Cheng Huang to be shaped like a fox with spikes on its back. Its rider would gain 2.000 years of life. She had finally found it. But, why is Cheng Huang jumping off a cliff with me? The fall seemed to go on forever as though they were falling into a bottomless abyss. When they descended, she saw countless vines and winged beasts. Some of them were even larger than Cheng Huang. They circled the cliff face and let out deafening howls that resounded through the chasm. At this moment, Yi Tianxin finally realized there was a possibility she would be stuck in this abyss forever. 7 days had passed by in the blink of an eye. In the eastern pavilion of the Evil Sky Pavilion, Lu Zhou opened his eyes. He confirmed that his extraordinary power was fully replenished. Then, he confirmed his remaining merit points. Merit points, 59.880 points. He did not have to use them to buy more item cards. Besides, with his current cultivation base, using item cards was no longer economical. Moreover, he could always purchase them at the last minute to avoid unnecessary troubles anyway. Lu Zhou stood up and left the Eastern Pavilion. When he saw his master coming out, Ming Shi Yin walked up to meet him. Master, 7th junior brother has replied. He said that Island Master Huang is preoccupied at the moment as the Nether sect is fighting Yu province. Ming Shi Yin said, did he mention the Lanshan Jade? Lu Zhou asked, puzzled. Island Master Huang said that the Lanshan Jade is still on Penglai Island. He'll invite you to the island and present it to you himself. Lu Zhou nodded when he heard this. Very well. Ding. Killed a target. Reward. 10 merit points. Ding. Killed a target. Reward. 10 merit points. Notifications from the system kept ringing in his ear. The sources of the merit points were from Yu Shangrong and Si Wuya. Lu Zhou stroked his beard lightly and looked in the direction of Yu province. Can you conquer the divine capital in 6 months? I'll be visiting Penglai Island. Can you and Duan Musheng look after Golden Court Mountain while I'm gone? Lu Zhou asked as he looked at Ming Shi Yin. Of course, it's not a problem at all. Ming Shi Yin thought, I'll be damned if there's a problem. Now that everyone knows there's a 9-leaf cultivator in the Evil Sky Pavilion. Only a fool would try to look for trouble here. That's great. You should cultivate harder in the meantime. You shouldn't hesitate too much in the matter of severing your lotus. Lu Zhou said, Yes, master. It's nothing but severing my lotus. I can do it in just an instant. Coincidentally, as Ming Shi Yin spoke, Duan Musheng happened to enter the eastern pavilion with his overlord's spear in his hand. Old Fourth, where did he go? Ming Shi Yin shuddered. He bowed at Lu Zhou and hurriedly said, I have something to attend to. Master, I'll take my leave. He vanished from sight in just a blink of an eye. Duan Musheng stood outside the eastern pavilion as he bowed and said, Greetings, master. What is it? Have you seen fourth junior brother? I've developed a new spear technique. Lu Zhou nodded in satisfaction and said, It's good seeing both of you helping each other out. Thank you for your praise. Master, I'll certainly do all I can to help fourth junior brother. Ding. Disciplined Duan Musheng. Reward. 200 merit points. Ding. Disciplined Ming Shi Yin. Reward. 200 merit points. I disciplined the two of them with this sentence. Lu Zhou looked in the direction in which Ming Shi Yin left and shook his head. He left the eastern pavilion and went to the southern pavilion. He saw Conch sitting alone on the stone bench outside the hall and called out to her. Conch. Conch turned and saw a gentle-looking Lu Zhou. She smiled as she leaped off the stone bench and walked up to him. You're here. Lu Zhou observed her condition again. Conch was in great shape. Everything about her was normal. She did not seem to be affected by Tiangu. Tiangu's shrill cry and reflecting sound technique was not something that could be easily withstood by mortals. Yet, she seemed completely unaffected. If she could start cultivating, it might not be a bad idea to accept her as a disciple as well. The bright moon shines over the sea. From far away we share this moment together. But it can be shelved for all I care. Will you come with me to Pendlai Island? Lu Zhou asked. Conch nodded. Just when the two of them were preparing to leave, little Yuanair ran out with a set of light blue garments in her hands. Greetings, master. Lu Zhou looked at little Yuanair curiously. This little girl loved a lively scene. It was highly likely that she wanted to follow him. What is it? Little Yuanair walked up to Conch and muttered. This is the cloud feather raiment second senior brother gave me. I'll lend it to you. You can return it to me when you're as strong as I am. All right. Conch glanced at the cloud feather raiment and nodded. Thank you, elder sister Yuanair. You're welcome. The two of them went into the room as she helped Conch change into her new clothes. They were of similar build and height. Conch resembled a fairy even more after she donned the cloud feather raiment. Their friendship exceeded Lu Zhou's expectations. Little Yuanair stood in front of Lu Zhou and said, Safe journey, master. You don't want to go? Lu Zhou asked as he stroked his beard. He was not used to this little girl being this mature. What are you standing around for? Let's go. Lu Zhou turned around. Little Yuanair, quote. She thought to herself, can I have my cloud feather raiment back? Lu Zhou planned to bring little Yuanair with him all along. Conch was not a cultivator yet. He felt safer with little Yuanair looking after her. The three of them rode on Witzid and left the evil sky pavilion as they flew southeast. After flying for an entire day, the three of them appeared above the seas in the east. They rested for a while when they finally landed. Master, there's an island hanging in the air. Little Yuanair seemed to have chanced upon a new world as she pointed toward the faraway skies. The floating island could be clearly seen in the clear, cloudless skies. It seemed near and far away at the same time. Just when Lu Zhou nodded in reply, a voice reached his ears. Greetings, old senior G. Lu Zhou was slightly taken aback. Did someone recognize him? As he wondered, he turned around and saw a middle-aged cultivator leading dozens of sword cultivators behind him. Lu Zhou studied him. He was certain he did not know this man. Then, he said, have we met? The man laughed. He studied Lu Zhou and said, I say, dear old man, with your appearance, I've nearly taken you as the genuine one. Lu Zhou was puzzled. What do you mean? I'm Taishu Academy's Grand Elder, Jiang Lizzie. I was invited by the Pendlai sect to lend him a helping hand. Old mister, during my journey, you're the third imposter I've met. You look like him the most, Jiang Lizzie said with a smile. Lu Zhou's expression darkened as he sternly asked, who has the audacity to pretend to be me? Ever since the matter with Ding Fanchu was dealt with, Lu Zhou was of the opinion that no one else would dare to impersonate him anymore. He did not think there would be someone so bold. Jiang Lizzie smiled and said, "Old mister, your act is almost flawless. Keep it up." Lu Zhou frowned slightly. Then, he said in a solemn and stern voice, "I'm the master of the evil sky pavilion." Jiang Lizzie said, "Yes, yes, yes. Greetings, old senior G." Contrary to his words and his actions of making the others bow, his gaze and tones suggested that he was merely playing along with Lu Zhou. The Taishu Academy disciples nodded as well. "Greetings, old senior G." Lu Zhou asked. "The Taishu Academy, at your service," Jiang Lizzie said haughtily. At this moment, Lu Zhou recalled that it was the people from the Taishu Academy and the Henchu branch who fought over Conch so they could use her to tame the wild beasts. Would such organizations come to help Pendlai sect out of the kindness of their hearts? Jiang Lizzie and Jiang Renyi, Lu Zhou really had to commend their naming sense. "Are you here on Pendlai Island's invitation as well?" Lu Zhou asked. Upon hearing this, Jiang Lizzie straightened his back, cupped his fists at Lu Zhou, and said, "Old mister, that's about enough. I don't know the details, but everything will be clear once we reach Pendlai Island." After saying this, he waved his hand. The Taishu Academy disciples walked on air, close to the sea's surface. Lu Zhou looked at the island hovering above the sea. It resembled something out of an oil painting. There were streams of water spilling from the edges of the island as well. At this moment, the barrier around the island seemed weak. Even its light was dim. "Yuanair, let's go." "All right." Little Yuanair brought Conch with her as she flew toward the island. After leaving the shore for some time, they still have not arrived. It was just as Lu Zhou had said. The island seemed close, but it was far away. They were traveling in the air, and although they could vaguely see the coastline, they had yet to arrive on Pendlai Island. After some time, the island grew clearer in Lu Zhou's eyes. There were 5 islands gathered together. 4 of the islands surrounded one island in a circle. All of the islands were covered in a faint blue light that was refracted from the sea. 4 huge formations that manifested in intensely bright light seemed to stretch on for several miles. The islands were pristine. Lush greenery could be seen everywhere. "Beautiful," Conch said, admiring the scenery of the islands. "There are many people there." Little Yuanair pointed to the entrance to the island. The entrance was a path made of slabs of rock. How extravagant. This was Pendlai Island, a place where everyone wanted to visit. Lu Zhou, Little Yuanair, and Conch flew toward the island. At this moment, someone ran toward him from among the crowd. "Old Senior G, we meet again." The person was none other than Ma King, the Grand Elder of the Qingyun Sword Sect, whom he had met several days ago when he took down Lani. The Rulian, he had brought his disciples with him as well. Since they had just met him recently, they were familiar with him. The Qingyun Sword Sect disciples bowed in unison, attracting the attention of the bystanders. Those present on the scene were mostly friends from various sects. Lu Zhou said tonelessly, "There's no need for such pleasantries." Then, he observed the island that was surrounded by the other islands. At this moment, Jiang Lizzie, the Grand Elder of the Taishu Academy Grand Elder, walked over and patted Ma King's shoulder before he said, "Brother Ma, great minds truly think alike." "Who's thinking alike?" Ma King moved away from Jiang Lizzie. Jiang Lizzie continued to say, "Oblivious. I think this old mister, among all those I met before, resembles old Senior G the most. What do you think, Brother Ma?" Ma King frowned slightly. He regarded Jiang Lizzie as though Jiang Lizzie had gone crazy. He said, "I don't understand what you're talking about. This is the real Evil Sky Pavilion's patriarch. Don't be rude." Jiang Lizzie was stunned. However, it was only for a moment before he said with a smile, I get it. You've always been diplomatic, Brother Ma. I really like that about you." Then, he turned to Lu Zhou and said in a formal and respectful tone, "Greetings, old Senior G." Lu Zhou ignored Jiang Lizzie. His thoughts were on the island in the center. Jiang Lizzie did not mind Lu Zhou's attitude as well. After bowing, he addressed Ma King and said, "How's that, Brother Ma? I was far more formal than you were." Jiang Lizzie, what are you trying to do? Ma King did not understand Jiang Lizzie. If you're trying to drag someone down with you, please find someone else. As the saying went, having a lousy teammate is worse than facing a godly opponent. I'm just doing what you're doing, Jiang Lizzie said with a knowing smile. Ma King turned ghastly pale. His expression darkened as he said with a righteous air, Jiang Lizzie, I'm seriously telling you this person before you is old Senior G. The nine-leaf expert. Yes, 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 I believe you. There, are you happy now? Jiang Lizzie nodded. That's more like it, Ma King said. If we didn't go way back, I would have severed all ties with you because of what you said. Hey, now, that's uncalled for. As soon as Jiang Lizzie finished speaking, whiz, the island in the center sank 10 meters. Everyone was shocked into silence as they looked at the floating island in the center. Soon after, the cultivators began to discuss among themselves. The floating island has sunk again. At this rate, it won't be long before the island sinks to the bottom of the ocean. When it comes to that, the formation will be damaged and the other islands will sink as well. When you put it that way, Penglai Island is truly in trouble. Most of the cultivators shared the same opinion. One of them rose into the air and projected his voice toward the island and said, Since Island Master Huang isn't around, I humbly ask that Island Mistress Huang take charge. Yes, please take charge, Island Mistress. How can you let your guests wait outside? It's been days, someone began complaining. At this moment, the doors of the huge palace slowly opened. More than 10 women in yellow clothes flew toward them with paper umbrellas in their hands. The paper umbrellas were arranged in a square. A graceful and luxurious-looking woman stood on the umbrellas. Greetings, Madam Huang. The woman was the wife of Huang Shiji, the island master. Madam Wang's expression was calm as she took in the scene in front of her. She said to the cultivators who had come from all parts of the empire in a clear voice, Welcome, everyone. Sorry to have kept you waiting. Jiang Lizzie was the first to step forward. He looked up and said, Where's Island Master Huang? The Island Master is currently attending to some urgent matter and can't return for now. I'll be in charge of all affairs regarding Penglai Island. Madam Wang's gaze was slightly dull. There did not seem to be any hint of gratitude in her words toward the cultivators gathered here. Someone said, Madam Huang, what could be more important than the island's sinking? Isn't he worried at all? Yes, Madam Huang nodded slightly when she heard this. Once the floating islands sank, Penglai Island would be forever submerged. After muttering to herself for a while, she loudly said, We'll follow our previous agreement. Anyone capable of restoring the floating islands formation will have Penglai Island's thanks. Jiang Lizzie from the Taishu Academy said, I don't want anything but the Lanshan Jade. No, someone refuted. Why should she give it to you? We all have a part to play in this. After hearing all these words, Lu Zhou vaguely understood the situation. The commotions under the heavens were mostly related to benefits and gains. There was no such thing as doing charity for charity's sake. It was no wonder that Madame Huang did not seem appreciative of their presence. From her point of view, these cultivators who came from afar were nothing but a pack of ravenous wolves howling piteously for food. It was possible that they would openly loot the islands when they sank in the name of protecting the treasures and riches for the island's sake. To put it bluntly, most of the people here were waiting for easy pickings. At this juncture, Ma King, the Grand Elder of the Qingyun Sword Sect, cupped his fists together and said, Everyone, please listen to me. The other turned to look at Ma King. Ma King said respectfully, Since the island master isn't here, shall we have the evil Sky Pavilion's old Senior G take charge? Ma King's words were like a pebble that gave rise to 1,000 waves. The evil Sky Pavilion's old Senior G. Everyone searched the crowd. Those who were not blind saw an old man standing at the edge of the island with 2 dumb-looking girls by his side. Old Senior G, how long has he been here? Does he usually keep a low profile like that? Some were shocked while others were puzzled. Madame Huang, who was standing on the umbrellas, looked over as well. Jiang Lizzie said, Brother Ma, don't you think you're getting way too into your act? Ma King snorted and said, Qingyun Sword Sect disciples, hear my words. From this day onward, the Qingyun Sword Sect is severing all ties with the Taishu Academy. Jiang Lizzie said in response, Fine with me, if he's old Senior G. How would you explain this? He raised his hand. The others looked at Jiang Lizzie. Jiang Lizzie held an ancient bronze mirror the size of an egg. The mirror was decorated with golden ornaments and illegible runes and veins. The Taishu mirror. There was a commotion. The Taishu mirror, or the golden Taishu mirror. It was famous in the cultivation world. However, nobody paid much attention to it since it did not help one's cultivation or improve one's strength. The golden Taishu mirror is said to be the finest mirror in the Taishu Academy. It can verify an object's authenticity, gauge a person's cultivation base, and peek into the depths of the dark abyss. The Taishu Academy seems serious about this matter to have brought this treasure here. Jiang Lizzie cupped his fists and said in a loud voice, "On the orders of my patriarch, with the golden Taishu mirror, I'm here to lend a helping hand to the Penglai sect." Ma King frowned deeply as he stared at the golden Taishu mirror in Jiang Lizzie's hand. He wondered if this was the reason Jiang Lizzie was so certain Ji Tiandao was an imposter. If that was the case, who was the old man who killed the other tribesmen the other day? Was he mistaken? Perhaps this old man had disguised himself as Ji Tiandao the other day. He shook his head. No, I can't be led astray by the bastard. Jiang Lizzie. He was certain he did not make a mistake. He would not suffer a loss if he trusted his own judgments. Jiang Lizzie raised the golden Taishu mirror in his hand. Primal chi surged, and chi was condensed into energy. Golden energy swirled around the golden mirror before it buzzed and shone. The veins on the mirror's surface formed an energy seal that turned into a round formation vein with a uniform pattern. It resembled the Taoist Eight Gates formation seal. Jiang Lizzie smiled and shifted the golden mirror. The Eight Gates formation seal's light was shone directly at Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou was curious about the golden Taishu mirror. However, it felt quite awkward to be, quite literally, put in the spotlight. He frowned slightly. At this moment, a golden lotus appeared before the golden Taishu mirror. Two blades of leaves spun around the golden lotus. Two-leaf nascent divinity realm. He's really an imposter. Even if he's an imposter, he's not someone we can afford to cross. A two-leaf nascent divinity cultivator is an elite as well. Only a handful of the cultivators gathered there were in the nascent divinity realm. Even if the old man was an imposter, they would not dare offend him. Jiang Lizzie was pleased with the performance of the golden Taishu mirror. He said haughtily, "I've used the golden Taishu mirror to see through many imposters on my way here. There have been at least 3 cases where someone tried to impersonate the evil Sky Pavilion's master." He straightened 3 fingers and showed him to the crowd as he spoke. Ma King was not convinced by this. He glanced at Lu Zhou before he said, "Nonsense, Jiang Lizzie, stop trying to fool everyone with your lies. Elder Ma, the truth is right before your eyes." The others began to discuss among themselves. The expression of Madame Huang, who was standing on the umbrellas, turned unnatural. Why is the focus on the authenticity of Ji Tiandao's identity now? Jiang Lizzie looked at Lu Zhou. He was no longer as respectful and polite as before. He said disdainfully, "A two-leaf nascent divinity cultivator. If you don't believe me, I'll shine the mirror on him again." A disciple standing behind Jiang Lizzie chimed in. The golden Taishu mirror can also be used as a demon-revealing mirror. Whiz! The golden Taishu mirror shone again from the 8 Gates formation seal. Jiang Lizzie raised his hand and directed the beam of light toward Lu Zhou. Just when the light was about to shine on Lu Zhou, he struck with his palm. Impudent! A golden vortex swirled in an anti-clockwise direction in his palm before huge palm seals shot out. The first seal was the Soul Diamond seal. Huge 9 scripts appeared. Power, energy, harmony, healing, intuition, awareness, dimension, creation, and absoluteness. They were arranged around the seal as it sailed toward Jiang Lizzie with a dazzling golden light. Boom! It could not be dodged. The first palm seal turned the stunned Jiang Lizzie. He was like a wooden chicken at this moment. The second to the 9th palm seal shot out as well, hitting his face and chest. The sizes of the palm seals were just the right size for his height. It was not too big nor too small. A single palm seal covered his entire person. When the final palm seal struck him, he was no longer there. He had been reduced to ashes and was scattered in the wind. No trace of him was left. Clang! The golden Taishu mirror fell onto the ground and rolled along a seam between the flat stone slabs. Ringing loudly, it rolled for a dozen meters and circled around the same spot before it came to a stop. The sound seemed lonely as it rang in everyone's ears. The mirror faced the skies. Coincidence was the best term in the world to describe the indescribable and mysterious incidents. The sun shone on the golden Taishu mirror. An 8 gates formation seal appeared in the skies. It was incomparably gorgeous. It covered everyone present on the scene. Fortunately, this was only the sunlight. Otherwise, everyone else's true cultivation bases would be revealed. The entire place was silent. Everyone was drawn by the golden Taishu mirror. Then, they turned to look at the old man who had just attacked with a tense and fearful gaze. Ding! Killed a target. Reward. 1.500 merit points. It seemed like Lu Zhou's words and the 9 cuts hand seals had intimidated the others. The golden Taishu mirror. The Taishu Academy. 2 leaf or 8 leaf. It did not matter how many leaves his opponent had. A deadly strike card would easily take care of them. If Jiang Lizzie had committed a great offense when he shone the mirror at him the first time, he was practically seeking death when he shone the mirror on him the second time. The Taishu Academy disciples who came with Jiang Lizzie were stunned. They gulped as they looked at the empty spot where Jiang Lizzie was standing just a moment ago. He was nowhere to be seen. A chill ran down their spines. Was it really old Senior Ji? Everyone was looking at the old man now. Good heavens! Their hearts trembled as their knees shook. At this moment, little Yuana's giggle broke the silence. She ran over and picked the golden Taishu mirror up. Master, this mirror seems fun. She channeled some primal chi into it. Whiz! The radiance from the golden Taishu mirror shone into the sea. Woo! The sea's surface roiled, and the water rose. The strange noise drew everyone's attention. It pulled them out of the shocked state immediately. They looked toward the area in the sea where the noise came from. The golden Taishu mirror continued to shine. The beam of light penetrated the seawater. The clear waters suddenly turned red as a huge fish about 50 feet long appeared. Its gills shone differently under the golden Taishu mirror's illumination. Luo Yu! It's Luo Yu! The crowd exclaimed in shock. The appearance of Luo Yu made them forget about Jiang Lizhi's death. They had also forgotten to confirm if this old man was the greatest expert in the world. Little Yuanair was delighted. She shone the golden Taishu mirror toward the sea again. She even ran to Conch's side, inviting Conch to play. Conch, look! However, Conch seemed distracted. She murmured, "It looks so sad." "Huh, how do you know?" Little Yuanair asked. "I can feel it." Quote. Meanwhile, the expression of Madame Huang, who was still standing on the umbrellas, changed slightly. She looked at Luo Yu in the water before bowed at Lu Zhou, who was standing at the edge of the island, and said, "Your methods are bizarre. Old mister, please take charge of the situation." Woo! Splash! Luo Yu suddenly broke the surface of the water. Its gills spread out into wings. The golden and red radiance intertwined. It flew in a circle under the floating island's formation. The fish was flying in the air. It was common knowledge in the cultivation world that Luo Yu could fly. However, it was their first time seeing it emitting such a gorgeous and steady radiance from its entire body. Dong! The floating island sank another 10 meters. When the floating island sank, Luo Yu gave a cry that resounded across the floating island. It's crying. Conch seemed to sympathize with it. Nobody noticed that. Water droplets the size of fists leaked out of Luo Yu's eyes. It did a final flip and drew a perfect arc in the air as it plunged back into the sea. It continued swimming under the formation's area with increasing speed. You wicked livestock, Madame Huang, this must be the thing that's damaging the formation. The floating island can be saved if we do away with this wicked livestock. The cultivators standing close to the edge were eager to try. Madame Huang pushed away lightly from the umbrellas before she descended. The disciples who wielded the umbrellas followed closely behind her. The crowd made way for Madame Huang. Madame Huang walked up to the edge of the island and looked at Luo Yu in the sea. The area where Luo Yu was swimming around was precisely the area under the formation. At this moment, many cultivators began urging Madame Huang. The formation must have been damaged by this Luo Yu. The floating island is kept in place by the formation. The other 4 islands rely on the floating island as the core. If the floating island is gone, Penglai is as good as gone as well. Madam Huang, please give the order. Madam Huang knew these people had ulterior motives hidden behind their seemingly helpful actions. However, she could not afford to lose her cool now, nor could she agree to their request immediately. However, if Penglai Island was not saved and the formation was destroyed, Penglai would truly be in danger. At this moment, Ma King said in a loud voice, "The way I see it, we should ask old Senior Ji for his opinion." Upon hearing Ma King's words, the others regained their senses. They recalled the Taoist 9 cuts hand seals they had just witnessed. And fear rose in their hearts again. With this reminder, they shut their mouths and looked at Lu Zhou. Was he truly the great individual from the evil Sky Pavilion? Regardless of what the others thought or what the results of the Golden Taishu Mirror's examination were, Ma King was convinced the old man before him was the evil Sky Pavilion's patriarch. Those who believed that the old man was only a 2-leaf cultivator either had their heads caught in a door or were out of their minds. Could a 2-leaf cultivator take down the Taishu Academy's Grand Elder in just a blink of an eye? Was that even possible? Ma King was an elder of the Qingyun sword sect. His words weighed more than the others. Lu Zhou extended a hand and said, "Yuan-er." Little Yuan-er understood her master's meaning. She placed the golden Taishu mirror in her master's hand. The glow faded. Lu Zhou gleamed at the Taishu Academy disciples, causing them to stumble back in fear. Even the Grand Elder, Jiang Lizzie, was incapable of withstanding a single hit from this old man. One could only imagine how powerful he was. However, they were perplexed. Why did the golden Taishu mirror show him as a 2-leaf cultivator? It was not just them. Everyone present was confused as well. The golden Taishu mirror could not lie. Lu Zhou said in a deep voice, "From this moment on, the golden Taishu mirror belongs to the evil Sky Pavilion." Quote. His words were powerful and resounded through the area. Ding! Obtained the golden Taishu mirror. Owner, Lin Xin. Recultivation needed before use. Although this item would not help much in improving Lu Zhou's cultivation base, he found it interesting. Lin Xin was the Taishu Academy's patriarch. Rumor had it that his great limit was close at hand. Yet, no news of his death had spread as of yet. It made one wonder what he used to maintain his life. The effects of the golden Taishu mirror were unique. Where did he get it from? Thud. The Taishu Academy disciples fell to their knees immediately. Their faces were glistening with sweat. Just when they were about to beg for mercy. Rumble. The floating islands sunk again. Old Senior, now's not the time to be quarreling with the Taishu Academy. Please help Penglai. If the floating island is saved, I'll give you the Penglai Heavenly Scroll. Penglai Heavenly Scroll. A commotion broke out as everyone began to discuss among themselves again. It was said that the Penglai sect patriarch's cultivation base had improved greatly, all thanks to the Penglai Heavenly Scroll. In a way, it helped lift Penglai Island's status to the height it was now. However, due to the cryptic nature of its contents, nobody understood it. After the passing of the patriarch, the Penglai Heavenly Scroll was passed down from generation to this day. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the Penglai Heavenly Scroll was the foundation of Penglai Island. It was unexpected for Madam Huang to offer it up. The floating island is sinking. Madam Huang has no choice. However, there's only one scroll. How will it be divided amongst us? The ambition of the wolves was becoming clearer. Madam Wang's asking old Senior Ji for help. Not you. Don't get ahead of yourselves. It's true that the old senior is an elite. But whether he's old Senior Ji or not still remains to be seen. You know too little about the golden Taishu mirror. That's no ordinary mirror. It sees through all lies in this world. It can't possibly make a mistake. How are you going to explain the 9 cuts hand seals then? An 8-leaf Taoist expert could have done that. Whether it was the Buddhist Great Seal of Fearlessness, the Taoist 9 cuts hand seals, or Hua Wudao's 9 scripts 6 compatible seal. They were all 8-leaf grand techniques. However, it was difficult to unleash these massively powerful energy seals. Hence, the cultivators rarely used them. In most cases, the results were not worth the trouble. Shush, don't say that. I think he's the real deal. Keep your mouth shut if you want to stay alive. For you lot, there's no difference between an 8-leaf and a 9-leaf cultivator. Quote. They could be killed with a single palm seal. It made no difference. Who gave them the courage to belittle an 8-leaf expert? Some believed while others remained doubtful. Madame Huang did not concern herself with this. All she wanted was for someone to help her get out of this predicament. She said again, "Please take charge, old senior." Lu Zhou looked at the graceful and composed Madame Huang and said, "Huang Shiji has an 8-leaf cultivation base. If he can't do it, why do you think I can?" The others looked at Madame Huang. Madame Huang bowed and said, "I have no other choice." Lu Zhou raised the golden Taishu mirror in his hands and channeled some primal qi into it. A beam of light shot out of the golden Taishu mirror and shone on the crowd. Avatars appeared around those who were shone on by the light. Most of them were 10 worlds avatars. Only a handful of them was at the 1-leaf and 2-leaf stage. Some cultivators deliberately avoided the light to hide their cultivation bases. It was possible for there to be grand cultivators among the people here. There might be any number of cultivators below the 9-leaf stage. The allure of the Penglai Heavenly Scroll was great. Lu Zhou flipped his wrist. The light shone on the sea. Luo Yu swam faster. Clang! A sound similar to chains being shattered rang from the southeastern corner of one of the huge islands. Penglai Island shook with the sound. Everyone present staggered and nearly lost their footing. Madame Huang frowned slightly and said, "Bring the Heavenly Scroll here." Understood. The cultivators on the island registered wore expectant expressions on their faces. They were curious about what the Penglai Heavenly Scroll looked like. Shortly after, a Penglai disciple carried the Heavenly Scroll in his arms as he flew toward him from the central region of the island. He landed before the crowd of Penglai cultivators on one knee and presented it to Madame Huang. "Madam," Madame Huang said, "if Penglai is destroyed, the Heavenly Scroll will be destroyed as well." She took it with one hand. There were clear ornamental patterns on the outer surface of the scroll, which was made from some unique material. She channeled some primal qi into the scroll, and the ornamental patterns shone. Now, whistling sounds rang from the 4 islands, and 3 figures flew toward Madame Huang immediately. Who cared about the Penglai sect? Who truly wanted to save Penglai? Madame Huang was not surprised. She exerted some pressure with her hand. The Heavenly Scroll returned to the box. With a click, it was locked. She pushed away from the ground and rose into the air. The umbrella holding cultivators behind Madame Huang flew up into the sky as well. Bam! 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 The 3 figures reeled and spat out mouthfuls of blood. The remaining umbrella holding cultivators escorted Madame Huang as they hovered in midair. She said decisively, "Activate the formation." 4 rings of light shone on the 4 islands, with the floating island in the center. The rings of light merged to form a special formation. A screen covered the skies. The huge barrier covered everyone on the island like a massive cage. For an instant, the cultivators who were making their moves looked up at the barrier with stunned expressions. Someone laughed maniacally. "What's the use of this? Once the floating island falls, these formations will be useless." Someone even bowed at Lu Zhou and said, "Old senior, we'll leave Madame Huang to you. You can leave the rest to us. You can have the Heavenly Scroll. What do you say?" Madame Huang looked at him from the skies. The battles on the 4 islands had already started. She had great hopes for the island before herself. "Ma King, my husband has invited you here. Are you trying to strike us when we're down as well?" Madame Huang looked at Ma King. Ma King said in a deep voice, "Everyone, stop. Qingyun Sword Sect disciples, hear my order. Yes, Elder, defend Penglai." The 100 sword cultivators from the Qingyun Sword Sect rose into the air at the same time. Sing, sing, sing. They unsheathed their swords. As they hovered in midair, they pointed their swords at the cultivators who were trying to take advantage of this situation. When Madame Huang saw this, she bowed and said, "Penglai will remember the Qingyun Sword Sect's help." Madame Huang, now's not the time for this. Penglai Island's crisis was much more difficult than they had anticipated. The sinking floating island was not the only problem. There was a pack of hungry wolves waiting for the right moment to attack. Ma King rose into the air and said, "Anyone who dares lift a finger against Penglai will be the sworn enemy of the Qingyun Sword Sect." His sound wave spread to the 4 islands and the floating island. The Penglai disciples on the 4 islands swarmed out and hovered above the islands. The remaining disciples who could not fly remained on the ground with frightened expressions on their faces. If the island sank, they would die. Ma King, you can quit your hypocritic act. You're just trying to take all the spoils for yourself, aren't you? Fat chance of that happening. I'd like to see how long you can hold out against us. The other cultivators drew their swords and sabers as they pointed at the umbrella-holding cultivators and members of the Qingyun sword sect in the air. Old Senior, just give the word, and the treasures of Pendlai Island will be ours. Two cultivators walked up to Lu Zhou. Ma King looked at Lu Zhou with a worried expression. He was not worried about the others. He was worried about this old man who had been keeping a low profile all this while. The old man's stance would determine the survival of Pendlai. Lu Zhou furrowed his brows slightly as he turned to look at the crowd. He stroked his beard and said, "Did I say I'll wallow in the mire with you lot?" The others were stunned. Old Senior, don't you want the Pendlai Heavenly Scroll? Rumble. The floating island sank another 10 meters again. The barrier above it contorted. Eventually, it could no longer withstand the pressure, and it shattered. Its power dissolved into spots of starlight and scattered in the skies. Madame Wang's face fell as she said, "This is bad." Lu Zhou looked back at little Yuanair and ordered, "Yuanair, protect Conch. MHM, don't worry, Master." Conch was wearing the cloud feather raiment. Coupled with her protection, unless a grand cultivator attacked them, they were in no danger at all. The instant the formation shattered, many cultivators from the seas far away above Pendlai Island charged toward the island. Looking down from the skies, they seemed like ants. Madame Huang extended her palm and shot toward the skies. She looked down from above the floating island. At this moment, she noticed the island on which Lu Zhou was at merely contained a small number of cultivators. With the barrier shattered, the cultivators lying in wait outside the 4 islands had come out of hiding to make their moves. There were hundreds of cultivators emerging from each island. Pendlai disciples, hear me, fend off the enemies. Understood. The umbrella-wielding cultivators took flight. Umbrellas shot toward the 4 directions. The battle started abruptly. Madame Huang looked at the floating island and sighed softly. "Dear husband, this is all I can do." The floating island was originally 100 meters above the 4 islands. Currently, it was only 20 meters from the sea's surface. Maniacal laughter rang from the floating island at this moment. "Madame Huang, don't blame the others. There aren't any real friends in this world. Go, my brothers." Pendlai Island had always been removed from the outside world and rarely interacted with other people. They had no friends to help them. Even if there were, who could guarantee they would not be stabbed in the back at the crucial moment? Ma King bowed at Lu Zhou. He knew Lu Zhou was the only one who could do something. "Old Senior Ji, please do something." Even if Huang Shiji was here, he could not have possibly turned the tides of the battle. The cacophonous sounds of battles rang from the 4 islands. The death toll was rising. Many low-rank cultivators fell into the sea, and their blood stained the sea red. The originally pristine waters were stained red. Lu Zhou stood next to little Yuanair and Conch. Without the peak trial card, it was not practical to try to take down these many ravenous wolves with other item cards and the heavenly writings powers alone. Moreover, these people had gone wild from their greed. They were beyond reasoning. Unless he could somehow gather all the cultivators in one place, it was rather impossible to take all of them down at once with the heavenly writing power. Rumble. The floating island sank another 10 meters. Lu Zhou looked up. The huge island that spanned 1.000 square meters blotted out the sun. It was too close. The pressure made it difficult to breathe. The frenzied cultivators flew recklessly toward the floating island. "Ma King, bring your people to the west," Lu Zhou ordered. Ma King was delighted when he heard Lu Zhou's words. He led his disciples and shot toward the island in the west at once. Up to 1.000 sword formations flew toward the frenzied cultivators like schools of fish in the sea. An intense battle unfolded in the sky. Meanwhile, Madame Huang stood on the floating island. Her expression was slightly blank. At this moment, Lu Zhou pushed away from the ground and flew toward the floating island. Suddenly, a voice rang in the air. "Madame Huang, you're as attractive as ever." Lu Zhou turned to look. It was a middle-aged cultivator who had spoken. He sent a palm strike toward the cultivator. Boom! A light blue palm seal shot out and struck the middle-aged cultivator. He dropped at once into the sea with a splash. As Lu Zhou flew, he saw the floating island was in chaos. It was nearly impossible to tell who was from which sect. Everyone was busy looting the island. Lu Zhou continued flying upward. If it was possible, he did not want to use the heavenly writing's power. It was not an issue for a two-leaf nascent divinity realm cultivator to kill cultivators below the nascent divinity realm. Madame Huang looked down. When she saw Lu Zhou flying toward her, an expression of surprise appeared on her face. She was uncertain about Lu Zhou's stance. Therefore, she quickly raised the hand that was holding onto the heavenly scroll and loudly said, "I repeat, the moment the floating island sinks, the heavenly scroll will be destroyed as well." The Penglai heavenly scroll burst forth with radiance as her sound wave rolled into the surroundings. "Madame Huang, the heavenly scroll is mine. Mine." Dozens of divine court realm cultivators flew toward the floating island. If this was in the past, they would even have the chance to get so close. Alas, without the formation and barrier, the floating island was defenseless. At the same time, dozens of 10 worlds avatars appeared as well. Lu Zhou frowned slightly. What a pain. He joined his palms together, and there was a flash of blue light. Scram! A sound wave rippled out from Lu Zhou into the surroundings and echoed in the air. This was the power of speech. The sound technique sent the dozens of cultivators reeling back like a flurry of hurricanes. They spat out mouthfuls of blood. Those who were watching from afar paled in fright. Forget about Penglai Island. Let him have the Penglai heavenly scroll. The cultivators were not fools. They would not face a powerful elite head-on or fight him for the heavenly scroll. At this moment, Lu Zhou landed next to Madame Huang. He extended his hand to her and coldly said, "Give it." Madame Huang turned pale, and her body tensed. Lu Zhou saw her frightened expression and said, "With me around, this won't be the end yet." His wizened palm was still extended before Madame Huang. It was normal for her to be skeptical and wary. After all, she could no longer tell who was a friend or a foe. Madame Huang glanced at the 4 islands that were all in chaos. She closed her eyes as a tear ran down her cheek. She placed the heavenly scroll in Lu Zhou's hand. Ding! Obtained the open earth scroll. Reward: 3.000 merit points. As Lu Zhou had expected, it was the open earth scroll. Lu Zhou's heart stirred as he struck with his palm. The earth scroll shattered. The outer cover was reduced to debris that scattered in the air. For a time, everyone was stunned. The heavenly scroll was destroyed. Madame Wang's eyes widened as she asked in a trembling voice, "Why?" Lu Zhou had no wish to explain himself. The open earth scroll automatically appeared in the system dashboard. Keeping its physical form would only be troublesome. The debris fluttered away like shining butterflies. Rumble! The floating island touched the waters. A huge wave rippled outward. Little Yuanair grabbed conch and flew into the air. The moment the floating island sunk into the water, Lu Zhou activated his protective energy and kept the seawater at bay. Alas, the sinking of the floating island was the final straw that broke the camel's back for Madame Huang. Penglai Island's hope was gone. Without hope, what was the point of her living? How would she face her husband? She sighed softly and no longer resisted. Just as well, death ends all troubles and worries. When the seawater surged toward them, a palm seal sent her flying upward. Bastard! Madame Huang exclaimed in shock. She flew up above the sea's surface. When she looked down again, Lu Zhou, who was standing in his own energy shield, was swallowed by the sea. Old senior, Madame Huang was shaken. At this moment, her hope was rekindled. The old senior had saved her without any regard for his safety. She would be an ingrate to throw away her life. She circulated some of her primal chi as she looked at the floating island disappearing beneath the waves. She was slightly stunned. The floating island is gone. The 4 islands will soon sink as well. Quickly, when they saw the floating island sink, the Qingyun sword sect's Ma King led his disciples on their swords and looked down at the 4 islands. What a shame. I've done all I could. I'm sorry, Madame Huang. I'm sorry, Island Master Huang. Madame Huang no longer cared. Loot all you want. It's better for them to end up in your hands than at the bottom of the sea. In the skies, Conch looked at the floating island that was sinking into the sea and mumbled. Luo Yu, Little Yuan said, "Where's my master?" She was in a dilemma. She wanted to dive into the sea to save her master, but she could not leave Conch alone. What should she do? Suddenly, a Taoist nearby launched himself from the ground, conjured up a group of energy swords, and charged at Little Yuan. "Since you killed a member of our Taishu Academy and took the golden Taishu mirror away from us, I'll have your disciple's life as payment." Sneak attack. This elite could no longer refrain from attacking. The cultivators nearby turned to look despite themselves. They were hit with a sudden realization. How could Jiang Lizzie, a mere elder, bring the golden Taishu mirror with him and speak so arrogantly to the old senior? This episode ends here. See you in the next episode. If you watch well, you can support the admin via YouTube Super Thanks or via PayPal with the information on the screen so that the admin has more motivation to make new episodes for you. Hope you enjoy watching the video.